disappointed in every one of you.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend you.
I'm disappointed in every one of you.
I kiss you on the mouth.
No, I'm not cool with that. Just, I'm sorry.
One more time.
I'm disappointed in every one of you.
I mean, I'm dealing with degenerate animals.
I'm disappointed in every one of you. Disappointed in every one of you.
All right, come on.
Honestly, I can't do it no more.
I'm disappointed in every one of you.
Let me tell you why.
It's gonna be all right, Nicky. Go ahead, shoot.
We just killed a fucking man.
What are you going to do about it?
You're happy because you got nothing. You don't got a thing. You're happy because you got nothing. Lobito! Got nothing.
I want to get out. I want to get out of this rat hole. I want to get online. I need
BDA boxing.
Well, welcome everybody to another BD Boxing podcast, broadcasting to you live from the True North. As your good friend Mr. BDA flying solo for the moment, but we are going to be remedying that very, very soon. I do believe we are going to be opening up the phone line soon within the next, about 30 minutes, 45 minutes perhaps. So in case somebody wants to call in, you can certainly do so via your telephone. Yes, indeed. Now, before we get down to the fun, let's get the business out of the way, fellas. You know the drill. If you want to check us out, you can do so on iTunes, Spreaker, and Spotify at your leisure. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. And, that's the most important thing, to spread the BDA gospel. And if you want to donate a couple of shekels our way, you can certainly do so with the Super Chat. Or join the BDA membership program where you get special emojis and badges and film analysis. So that's actually a little better because you get something more in return. Why not? But like I said, the most important thing is that you continue to like and subscribe. All right, fellas, let's give a shout out to everybody in the chat room here. Shout out to Eparukua, Jay Perez, Ignacio Juarez, Moeller27, Not, that's K-Nut, Official Scorecard Boxing. Shout out to Official. Check out his channel. And the Coup d'etat Boxing, Pugilism, Intergalactic, Jay Perez, Eddie Valenzuela. Who else we got? Wusika Fury. Haven't seen him in a while. Shout out to Wusika. And he says, no controversy. Gary lost big time. Oh, we're going to talk about that. Psycho Mike. Gary Rusell fought afraid and lost 8 to 9 rounds. He lost, no controversy. Well, you know what? That's why we put it in the title. We asked, was it a controversial? Because according to some people, it was controversial. They didn't really like the fact that Gary Russell Jr. was on the wrong end of this decision. Pugilism says, can't fault Gary continuing to fight, acknowledging the injury beforehand. He almost pulled it off with a left hand, footwork and IQ alone. Can see the craftiness edge on Russell's side. Good experience for Magsayo. Shout out to All Natural, Team Batman Boxing, Tensors D, Wayne Fitness, The Fighter Spirit, Charlie Harris, and many more people to come. I'm sure, fellas, thank you for joining us. Let's get down to it. Mark Magsayo, from all the way down yonder in the Philippines, goes to the United States and pulls off the win. I'm hesitant to say upset because I asked this question on the Open Lines Friday episode to everybody. I said, is this a prophecy, a self-fulfilled prophecy in a way, from Gary Russell Jr.? Because he came in here saying his dad had his foot amputated, which I didn't know, by the way. I thought he was just sick. I didn't know they cut that bad boy off. So he goes in there with a father who's turned into a, essentially, well, I was going to say crippled, but I mean, poor guy had his foot cut off. That's sure to be a little bit rough on the mind. Then he weighs in and he takes him 2 tries to get it done. Then he's talking about how if he looks too good in this fight, it won't get him the big fights down the line. And then he says, hey, I'm coming in here with a little injury. Which, by the way, we did see an injury occur in about the third, fourth round. So, was this really an upset? When even the fighter uncharacteristically is telling you, you know what, I'm not going in there 100%. Whatever the case may be, he did end up losing a decision. Majority decision, I think, was pretty unanimous, man. I don't know. I'm going to look into this judge. I should have done that before the fight because it's something that I'm trying to do now. Trying to really put these judges a little bit under the spotlight. And, you know, because majority, I think he had it a draw. A1, no, it wasn't no draw. Now, you can make the argument what would have happened had, or you can speculate, rather, not make the argument, but you can speculate. Maybe Gary Russell Jr., what would have happened had he had two good arms? Well, I don't know, but we'll never know. All I know is he had one hand. He didn't throw that many shots, spent most of the time on the defensive, and he should have lost that fight. I don't see that fight as a draw. I got the fight ready to be rewatched, so we're going to see what happens there. Maybe I'm wrong on a rewatch. Maybe it will be closer. Suffice to say, Gary Russell Jr. has lost his title. Maybe now he'll get the big fights he wants because he didn't look all that hot in there. So now maybe some other fellas are going to say, you know what, I'm actually willing to go in there and fight him. By the way, for those of you that care about this type of stuff, the CompuBox numbers obviously reflect that Magsayo earned this win. Let me just give you the official CompuBox here on the screen. Why is it so big? What the? Ah, come on. Hold on a second. Now I gotta remove this. It's a very big photo, by the way. It's not about the size. Somebody should tell these photographers or these computer programmers, it's not about the size of the picture, it's how you use it. It's my girlfriend always tells me. All right, let's see here. CompuBox. According to CompuBox numbers, estimates rather, Russell threw 323 punches, landed 69. Oh, come on, that's a dirty number right there, if I ever saw one. And Magsayo threw 543 shots and landed 150. So it begs the question, would Russell have really thrown more right hands had that shoulder not popped or whatever? Interesting question. Again, I don't think we'll ever know. I don't see a rematch. For some reason, I don't know. It's the PBC, man. I mean, already Russell was only fighting once a year. You're telling me he's gonna fight more now that he's lost? Well, maybe. Maybe necessity will become the mother of... Hold on a second. Yeah, maybe necessity will push him to fight more. Azeban says, Magsayo was more effective when Russell had both hands. Yeah, but see, I was thinking that. It's true. Magsayo was actually the best Magsayo looked was in the early rounds and 11 and 12 when he actually let his hands go and went to the body. But maybe that's because Russell was just starting to set his right hand up. I don't know. If there is a fight that deserves a rematch, it's this one. Because I feel it was inconclusive. Yes, Russell went in there knowing he was injured. In fact, he said so himself after the fight. He goes, well, I knew I was injured, but I was going to continue going. Oh, by the way, hold on a second. Let me invite... all right. So he said that he knew he was going to be injured, but that he's a soldier. And he was going to soldier on. Well, good for him, but as we saw with the Lomachenko situation, if you go in there injured, that's on you, my friend. You shouldn't have done that. Real quick shout out to Azeban. He says, Magsayo was more effective when Russell had both hands. Oh, yeah, I read that comment. All right, now we got Jimmy dropping by. Jimmy, you there?
Yes, sir. What's going on, brother?
Good to have you on board, Jimmy. Yeah, just I wasn't sure if anybody was going to be on this early, so I forgot to send the invites. But Jimmy, I wanted to ask you, man, the $1 million question with Gary Russell Jr. Some people are saying there's two narratives coming out here. Some people are saying, well, yeah, he lost, but you got to give him credit for putting on such a good display of boxing while injured. Number two, would he have been able to pull off the win without the injury, which is kind of difficult to say, right? Because he's not exactly Larry Holmes in there with that jab of his. So what do you think about those two things? I mean, does this fight beg for a rematch?
Well, if I was him, I'd want a rematch because, listen, I walked away from that fight more frustrated with how do you pronounce his name? Magsayo?
Magsayo, yeah.
Or Magsayo, okay. I mean, Gary Russell Jr. had one arm. He had one punch coming. He didn't, you know what I mean? He was going to hit you with the straight. He's not going to hook off on you, straight hook. He's going to, you know what I mean? That's the one punch that this kid could get hurt by, and he just walked into it over and over. And it was so frustrating. And then he wouldn't let his hands go. Listen, that dude, he backdoored himself into a fucking title. Okay, look at like I tweeted out. This is my whole take on it.
Mm-hmm.
You can have a 6-pack. You can look like a you can't be at age 33 a part-time professional boxer, go over 2 years out of the ring and step into a championship fight because you don't have fighters' connective tissues. The reason his shoulder was punched out, which it was, he took a fucking right hand to the shoulder and it literally blew it out of the socket and injured his shoulder, because when you get punched a lot in the shoulder, listen, it's just your body gets used to it. Think of it as fighter calluses. You fight all the time. You're developing. There's a difference from like, okay, someone works out. I could work out, get all jacked up all I want, right? Mm-hmm. For one punch, miss a dude and fucking end up blowing my shoulder out because I'm working tendons and using it in a different type of way. Okay, he doesn't. So you can't go into age 33 when you're a smaller dude. Remember, like, you know, it's a Diner's doing something pretty crazy. But I saw a guy who wasn't as quick as he used to be. I thought lost the snap off his jab right from the first round before his injury. And as far as his narrative that he knew the shoulder, I mean, the vague, nebulous, I had surgery back when I coming out of the Olympics. Really? So you signed with a promoter who knew you had an injured shoulder, and the doctor's recommendation was to get surgery, and you said, "Nah, I'll just fucking work around it, add muscle to it.
I'll walk it off." Yeah,
yeah, I'll shake it off. Give me some fucking Nuprin, a couple aspirin. Fuck out of here, dude. All right, this is a professional fight. You know what I mean? You want to clean that shit up. All right. So then the fact that, okay, remember when his brother went to the corner? I guess they talked to his brother, the other Gary, and they said, "Whoa, yeah, there's an injury. What is it?" And he really didn't know yet. If it was an ongoing shoulder injury, all right, his brother said, yeah, well, because obviously he wants to help his brother out. He's in there not using that arm. He would have said, yeah, he had a shoulder injury coming into the fight. Why was he like, no, like, oh, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you. Ask Gary after the fight. Oh, why? Because so you don't know. So you knew nothing of this injured shoulder that he re-injured fucking training 3 weeks ago, that he was such a warrior, such a fighter at heart that he wasn't going to postpone the fight. Coming from the guy who's the longest reigning WBC champion with the fewest amount of defenses in that sanctioning body's history, okay? And now all of a sudden you're not going to put up a fight. It was all bullshit, dude. His shoulder got punched out. He grimaced in pain because he doesn't have the connective tissues, which are cartilage, ligaments, and tendons of a professional fighter, because he doesn't live as a professional fighter. There's a reason fucking guys fought 5-6 times a year, fight in between championship, to have 3 championship fights in a year and take in between fights. Because it's not because they like getting punched in the face. It's because they have to, because it hones their skills. It creates their body. Their body becomes a fighting machine. A part of that fighting machine, your ligaments, your tendons, a fucking warrior like. Mm-hmm. And his aunt, he's 33, he got punched in the shoulder, bang. And that was it. And his brother couldn't talk on it because he didn't know anything about it. There was no ongoing fucking shoulder injury. So severe that fucking, you know what I mean, that it blew out like that? No. If you go, did you see the actual punch, the right hand that blew it out?
Yeah, they were exchanging, right?
Yeah, it was, he just threw, I think he was countering that fucking, the lucky kid. Kid should go play the lottery today, seriously.
I want to talk about that because, when I asked you the rematch, does Gary Russell Jr. want to rematch? Hey, he should be begging for one because I don't think Magsayo is going to be holding on to the title for long. But yeah, go ahead, Jimmy. You're talking about the injury, the way it happened.
Yeah, the whole thing. Listen, that was I have it on right now as rewatching it. I'm just gonna say too. Can we talk about that fucking first fight later? Jim Gray fucking blindsiding that referee who's a liar. I mean, he watched the tape. Oh, I see. That was classic. Jim Gray definitely told on people in high school. Without a doubt, that's you know what I mean.
Exactly, yeah, man.
Told on everybody.
I'm pretty
I
sure
got permission from Larry Hazard to talk to you. The guy's like, what? But yeah, no. So listen, that whole thing is this. Yes, it was a legitimate injury. No, he didn't win the fight, throwing 9 punches in one round. I think he landed the cleaner punches because the other dude sucks, and it's PVC.
I mean, listen.
So,
in regards to the Gary Russell Jr. thing, you're talking about the injury. Maybe you can correct me on this if I'm wrong, or if anybody in the chat could correct me if I'm wrong. But Gary Russell Jr., for what I've heard, I've never actually heard it from his own mouth or read any articles about this, but people keep saying that he once claimed that he was okay with fighting once a year, right? I think that's the narrative.
Yeah,
yeah.
Oh, absolutely. He said that. He said that on numerous occasions a few years ago.
Okay,
because he's catching so much heat, he's blaming the media. You know what I mean? And he's also used terms like complexion for protection. He's got the complexion protection. He's race hustled. He's done every fucking, he does the sport no good. I mean, if he announces retirement instead of a rematch, would anybody give a fuck? The dude held that belt hostage for 6 years, demanded ridiculous money like he was a star because he can go, when he throws fast punches. Fuck out of here. This sport's an embarrassment.
What I'm trying to ask you here is, you mentioned the inactivity playing a factor in him getting injured. So then would it be safe to say that he himself, by wanting to fight only once a year, put himself in this position?
Oh, yeah. He brought this whole thing on himself, brother. You checked out. I don't know. Can you hear me, bro?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, he brought this whole thing on himself. That's inactivity. It's when they say steel, sharpen steel, inactivity, ring rust. Ring rust isn't just your timing. It's everything. Your body doesn't react right because you're not fighting enough. When they say somebody fights on instinct, you know what I mean? Like either they're out cold or they just like been such a beating, like they don't remember the rounds. I mean, like a Toro Gotti would tell you, he didn't remember after the fucking body punch or halfway through that last round. He's like, I had no memory of it, dude. None. And he's serious as a heart attack. It's like, it's not something you'd brag about. Totally fighting on instinct. And when you say instinct, Jesus Christ, I mean, who has instinct of throwing punches? It's because you've done it so much and you've been in so many wars and you fight so often. That's how you developed instinct. In his body, there's punch memory, there's fight, they say punch calluses on the face, and it's just your tendons. Like, you can have a six-pack, you can look good, come in there all jacked up, but it's a different type of physique. And another thing, I'll tell you what's causing a lot of this, like the fucking, not just the steroids for the broken bones and the brittle damage. So, and that's what you saw last night. That was a white tissue damage punch. And probably you have, and I know exactly, it's called like a shoulder flexor. I had that happen once. A kid came down on me in a check in hockey, and it's horrible. It sucks. You have no range of motion. I mean, kudos to him for fucking hanging in there and not quitting. But I mean, come on. Fucking, this kid was begging him to win. I mean, that kid, what was fucking Freddie Roach doing? Is this dude just like, you know what I mean? Is he like just the dude who just shows up and gets his, you know what I mean? You're using his name. Is he actually, I didn't hear him saying anything. But then again, they really weren't putting too much mic on him.
Well, that's the thing. They kept talking about how he was running into the left. And he was, I was expecting him to get dropped at some point, not a hurt type, just a flash type knockdown off balance, because he was, Russell would move to his right and run Magsayo into the left, and Magsayo was running into that left, meaning, to make it simple, Magsayo should have been moving to his left hand. But no, he was moving to the right.
Exactly.
Running right exactly. I mean, this guy, look, listen, let's talk about Magsayo a little bit. And by the way, we got Gonzalo and Reckon dropping by. But let me just say this.
You got two ways to go, brother, right? He had two directions you could choose from, the wrong way and the right way, right? And he went the wrong way all night. Anyways, what's going on, guys? Recognize Gonzalo. How you guys doing, brother?
Doing good, man. Doing good.
Hey, how's it going?
Good to hear from you, fellas. Can I just say something about Magsayo, man, real quick? Look, give him credit for winning the fight, okay, but there's a lot he could have improved on this. Basically, I know it's easy to say he should have done this, he should have done that. But when he went to the body, he was running Gary Russell Jr. into those body shots. When Gary Russell Jr. was trying to pivot away, he was running into those shots. So it would have been very easy for Magsayo. This fight could have been easier for Magsayo, is what I'm trying to get at. But
and the lead hooks were there for him, man. The lead hooks, but he threw them certain times. He knew when to throw them early. But I think he got away from that, and I think that he could have probably stopped Gary Russell had he done that more. You know what I'm saying? But the inexperience, kicks in for a guy like him. I thought he clearly won that fight. There's no doubt he won that fight hands down. He outlanded him in every single round, in my opinion. It looked like he landed more punches. He kept coming forward. He had Gary Russell backing up for the most part. Gary Russell did catch him with a lot of straight lefts because, like you guys pointed out, he instead of going towards his left, he was going right. Going towards his lead hand, he was going right towards his left. And so that's part of the inexperience for that guy. But outside of that, Gary Russell didn't do anything. He didn't do much. I thought he spent most of the fight in retreat mode. And I love what Jimmy said about how fighters are not in fighting shape, and you can tell because as soon as he got hit somewhere by his arm, he knocked his arm off the socket. And that's part of, that's actually part of not fighting, when you're not used to getting in there in the ring. There's a lot of, you could be really good skill-wise. You could be more skilled than another guy. But when you haven't fought in a long time and your heart's not in it, you're kind of rusty like a layman. Like a guy who goes in there, let's say he works out, he's a good athlete. He takes boxing as like a second sport or maybe, just to work out. And you put him in there with a boxer, A lot of times the boxer, all he has to do, if it's a real fight, all he has to do is just let the guy injure himself, maybe just punch him in the shoulder and fuck him up, and knock his shoulder out of socket. And so I do believe Gary Russell was injured. I do believe that. And he lost like an injured fighter. He lost hands down.
Yep. Recognize. Let me ask you and Gonzalo both, real quick. Prime Marvin Hagler, prime Julio Cesar Chavez. Did they get their shoulder punched out in the fourth round?
No, of course not. I mean, unless it was like some fucking devastating puncher that, besides them being in great shape, they still get their. It would be a guy who's punching way above his weight class. You get what I'm saying? That can do that to Marvin Hagler or Julio Cesar Chavez.
Gonzalo, what was your take on the fight? And I also want to ask you, because you're down there in the Philippines, and I've seen certain media people, personalities on YouTube and, in script and, written format saying Magsayo, the next Pacquiao. That's what they were saying. It's really doesn't have the same style, I don't think. But what do you think about what transpired last night?
Guy's powerful. He's fast, but he don't remind me of Manny Pacquiao. He reminds me more of like a Brian Viloria.
Yeah,
style.
very good. Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty good. I mean, he could improve. He's powerful. He's quick. Yeah, Gary Russell. He could have passed on the fight, but no, since he only fights once a year, basically he had to take the fight because although he only likes to fight once a year, that once a year must be a must for him because he counts on that payday. So he kind of leaves himself no option. He must fight, and he's got to defend his mandatory. So you can't really pass up because you only fight once, and you count on that payday. So, I mean, it's not like I wanted to prove to my fans, that I got the heart. No, it's just leave yourself no option, no wiggle room.
Exactly.
You only fight once a year.
Time slots, right, brother? Yeah, no other time slots either, right?
You got to take the fight because that you put yourself in that position. You count on that money, especially if you got personal problems. I mean, you can't say, "Oh, I'm going to postpone." Yeah, you could postpone if you're fighting twice a year, maybe, right? But no, it's like that's your payday for that year, right?
Yeah, man.
You got to defend your mandatory status.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, though, with Gary Russell Jr. is, look, and Tank Davis too at some point was only fighting once a year, and you're thinking, if you're only fighting once a year, let's say you fought in January 2021, and then you go, well, I'll fight in 2022. What happens if you get injured and you can't fight? What happens if something unexpected like the COVID happens and there are no fights? It's, now you got a 2-year layoff on your hands or a 1 year, 8-month layoff. It's that's why these guys need to stay
right.
active.
He was going on a 2-year layoff, BDA, going into that fight. So he even went away from his traditional 1 year 1 year fight. So think about that. He's even going to, he was already being inactive enough. And then he basically almost had a 2-year layoff. I mean, look, Deontay Wilder was champion for 5 years, I think. 5 years. He had 10 or 11 title defenses. You get what I'm saying? Like he was active. He might have been fighting guys that are not at the level that would prepare him for a guy like Tyson Fury, but at the very least, he was active. He was a champion. He was, in terms of like schedule, he was defending his belts. You know what I'm saying? At least twice a year.
That's a great point, man. It's that activity. It's look, you, like Jimmy said, you can be in fighting shape and all that, but hitting the bag, there's always contact with the bag. If you're sparring, there's going to be times where you're going to be missing. And if you're not in shape, if your tendons and your ligaments and your body chemistry isn't strong and it affects those things, if you punch somebody or if you try to punch at somebody and you miss and your body's all out of whack, you're going to pull something. So, I mean, that's what happened with Gary Russell Jr. Now, there's people in the chat I'm seeing now, because I wasn't expecting that in this chat room. Some people are saying that Gary Russell Jr. was robbed. So we're going to open up the phone lines very, very soon. And I'm very curious to hear from the people that are saying that Gary Russell Jr. was robbed. Because, I mean, look, you have to admit, he had one hand. Now, if you want to say that he could have schooled Magsayo with both hands, I'm not going to argue all that much. But the fact is, he only had one hand. He threw less shots, landed less, from what I saw and from what the CompuBox people saw. So there's two groups that are now seeing the same thing. He didn't win this fight. He didn't come close to winning it. So to say that he was robbery...
I tweeted the wrong number because I looked at the CompuBox, the official CompuBox. And he still outlanded him by he more than doubled Gary Russell's landed punches. He more than doubled. He almost 3 times Gary Russell's land output. So yeah, he outworked. That's what I saw. I saw in every single round him landing more punches and him backing Gary Russell up, which is the two main criteria to win a round. And that's what he
was outgunned. I mean, Magsayo, he landed the more powerful punches, and Gary Russell didn't land anything with authority. He never seemed to bother Magsayo. Just by that alone, you couldn't say that Gary Russell did anything to trouble Magsayo.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point, man. I mean, look, if you want to get into speculation, like saying that, well, if Gary Russell Jr. had 2 hands, he would have schooled Magsayo. Well, Magsayo is the type of guy that, first of all, he did something that we talked about on Friday that he should not get into, which was a rhythm of 1-2, reset, 1-2. That type of stuff doesn't work against the Gary Russell Jr. That's number one. Number two, if we want to speculate further and say that Gary Russell Jr. could have won this with both hands, I can make the argument that Magsayo is the type of guy who needs you to throw first. He's a classic counterpuncher in order to let his hands go. Because when Gary Russell Jr. was throwing those rights in the early rounds, Magsayo was countering with left hooks to the body. And call me crazy, but as soon as Gary Russell Jr. stopped throwing those right hands, Magsayo sort of stopped throwing those left hooks to the body. So it's almost like he needs you. He's not confident enough to let his hands go. That's what happens sometimes with fighters. It's a confidence thing. That's what makes the difference between a top 10 guy, a contender, pound for pounder. It's, are you willing to let those hands go? Do you see the openings? And even if you don't see them, do you create the openings? Do you just, even if you don't create the openings, do you just fucking whack the other guy in the body? Like, Magsayo is not that type of guy. And you know what? That's Gary Russell Jr. better fucking get on the horn and get a rematch as soon as possible. Because if, I don't know if this fight could get made, but if Navarrete gets to Magsayo first, I think he breaks Magsayo down. Julio Ceja was doing it. And Navarrete, I don't have any belief to the contrary. That leads me to the contrary. I think he breaks. Well, what do you guys think? Magsayo versus Navarrete. How would I go? Maybe
Navarrete destroys him. Destroys him. In my opinion. Right now, if Navarrete fought Magsayo right now, yeah, his next fight.
Yeah, that would be a good fight.
It wouldn't be good for him.
Navarrete will get him in. Navarrete will get him mid rounds. He'll stop him. I think Magsayo he'll have his opportunities, like you said, because Navarrete is a very positive fighter. He comes forward. He throws a lot of punches, so there'll be opportunities for him to land some good body shots, maybe some shots upstairs. But I think Navarrete runs him over in the mid rounds.
Call me crazy. I think Fulton could go up to 126 and beat Magsayo. I don't think it'd be easy.
Maybe, maybe he might. And
isn't he chinny?
I thought Brandon Figueroa gave him all he can handle.
And isn't he a bit chinny too? He's been down a couple of times, hasn't he?
Who, Fulton?
No, Magsayo.
Yeah, Magsayo. He was like Seiya was getting it to him, man. It was going to be either or. One of those guys was going to get the other out. But
I mean, that style's kind of dangerous too. It's like a Donald Curry, like only throws 1, 2, 3 punches, and they're pretty like precise punches. When the other guy throws, you throw, and then what you throw is like a 1 or 2 punches that do land, and then they're hard. It's dangerous, but he is. I think it's just more of a consequence of his limitations. I don't know if that's just his intention. What he's been training with Freddie Roach, but if he gets put in a position where he's really bothered by the other dude's offense, will he be able to land those shots?
Excellent point, man. That's an excellent point. Like I said, it's a mentality thing. But go ahead, Jimmy. Sorry.
My thing is he got less accurate after Gary became a one-armed fighter.
Yeah, exactly, man. What the heck
he was fucking winging shots, missing. He'd throw 1-2 missed, 1-2 miss, and then he'd finally catch him. It's like, dude, he's got one fucking arm, dude. Fake feint to one direction, get him to bite because he's got one arm, right? So you feint because he kept going into the wrong direction, right? So now you got him at least knowing you're an idiot. You're going to keep going in that direction. So at least he's going to be ready for it. So you feint it that way. And when you see him go to jump with that fucking straight, left and his arm down, you jump him with your own fucking check hook and drill him. He never even tried shit like that. He tried no traps. It's just, I don't know. Maybe did he have much of an amateur pedigree? Because
I don't think so.
Not a very good schooled boxer.
Yeah. I mean, maybe with Ferry Roach in his corner, he'll correct those mistakes. I don't know, man. I do want to ask you guys something. Well, actually, I want to play this. This is Gary Russell Jr. after the fight. I think it was today, right? Actually, these are the comments he made. He after the fight, he said he won the fight. He gave himself props for being a soldier. He should have let other people do that for him, but whatever. And now today he's doubling down. So this is what he said, apparently. Hold on a second. Let me fast forward okay.
Politics is a bad motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? I beat that boy at least 10 rounds to 2, 9 to 3, man. Man, took old boy to school, man. I don't know, man. It is what it is, man. I just wanted to come on here and show y'all some love, man. To the real supporters, you know what I'm saying? To the real fans, man. I appreciate it. Y'all seen what it was, man. They been trying to get a nigga out the way, I guess. I don't know. But it is what it is, man. To the fans, man, I appreciate y'all.
So he's starting to say they wanted, he's intimating that there was a conspiracy afoot. Why would the people that were protecting him and letting him fight once a year and all that, why will they all of a sudden throw him under the bus?
That's what I was saying, right? Because I heard some people saying that they were trying to rob him. I'm like, oh, so you're talking about Al Heyman. That's what you're talking about, right? Because if you believe that, it's a PBC event. It's on Showtime. So if that's how you feel, then you need to look at your boy, the boy that you guys love so much. You got to ask him questions.
Exactly.
You know what really sucks to recognize? Fucking dollars to donuts. Within probably a few weeks, he'll stop blaming race. They took it because he's a black man. I'm going to be honest, because that's the kind of shit. It's kind of the way that dude talks, the way he rolls, the way he moves. And it's fucking slimy. I hate that shit. I'm just being honest.
Well, listen, I mean, nobody likes a guy that makes excuses. That's why so many people turned on Lomachenko, even though he never actually brought up. I mean, he brought it up way later after his management had come up with the whole shoulder thing. But boxing fans, we don't like when a guy loses and then go, especially when it's a an excuse like this, like when he doubles down and says, "Nah, I won this 10-2." It's like, man, come on. I've heard other fighters say in the past, it was a close fight, but I think I did enough to win, blah, blah, blah. Now he goes 10-2, 9-3. I mean, it just seems like a guy trying to save face. And I know what it is. Psychologically, I sympathize with the guy, but at the same time, it's just, he's not going to win himself any fight. If the few fans he had left can't be happy about this. The other thing I wanted to mention was, speaking of fans, and fighters that need one guy that needs as many fans as possible is Devin Haney. He prefers to do the talking, this guy, not the fighting. He says after this loss, he said, Mr. Cap, aka Gary Russell, lost to a bum. Now, look, there's plenty of criticism to go Magsayo's way. Like we said, he made a lot of mistakes in there. But call the guy a bum. Devin Haney to do that because he's trying to take a shot at Gary Russell Jr. I think it's quite disrespectful to both guys, and especially to Magsayo. And when Tyson Fury came out accusing Usyk rather of being a cheater, of taking PEDs, Klitschko said, if you live in a glass house, careful about throwing them stones. And it's the same thing with Haney, because I don't think he's going to be on top for a long time, this fella. Within the next 2 years, maybe he's going to take it out. And on top of that, and I'm showing the clip here. I don't know if you guys can see it on the YouTube screen, not on the Discord, but on the YouTube screen. This is Devin Haney, 2 solid rounds after he was stunned by Linares, and he went for that. I saw a video once. This was pre-YouTube. I think it was like a guy who was on crack or on meth or something, and he went after a guy's dick, and this is how he did it. This is what it reminds me of. Look at how he jumped straight for the clinch 2 rounds after he was hurt. So if he's going to be calling people bums, he better think twice about that, because there's plenty to dissect from him as well. Let me tell you. Plenty to criticize from him. But what do you guys think about that? Should Devin Haney just stop talking so much? Because it seems like every time he opens his mouth, he gets himself into a little bit more trouble.
Well, you got to understand, Devin Haney doesn't like Gary Russell. Gary Russell had called him out. I thought it would have been a good fight if it would have ever happened. So, when how can I say this, right? When you give your enemies material, they're going to use it. And maybe he's over-exaggerating by calling Magsayo a bum, but I get it. It's like, I'm here to rub the wound in your fucking face. Yeah, that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to laugh at you. I'm here to make it harder for you.
Right.
And he's not taking into consideration. He was injured. Listen, that wasn't faking. He was grimaced in pain. Exactly. So he's leaving that out. It wasn't like he just lost to some, because you know what I mean? I mean, he did lose, absolutely, but he was a one-arm fighter. So for that reason too, Haney's kind of a knucklehead.
Yeah, no, Haney's just being, look, man, when you got enemies, man, they're not here to be nice to you. I sympathize with the brother. No. I don't like you. You lost to a bum. Fuck off. That's like his way of telling him, get lost. Don't mention my name. Even though I don't think he's way above Gary Russell, Devin Haney. Like I said, I think that would have been a good fight. Had he gone up in weight and fought Devin Haney, I think it would have been a good fight. But, you gave your enemies something to laugh about. And shit, if I was Devin Haney, I'll do the same thing. If me and this guy were beefing like that, we're in the same business, yeah, I'd be like, dude, you lost to a bum, get over it. Every day, I'll let him know. The guy who lost to a bum. I'll tweet every day, the guy who lost to a bum.
That's a fair way of putting it, Recognize. I gotta tell you, man. Yeah, that's those guys don't like each other. I wouldn't expect
them. To me, he would do it to me, right?
Right? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's still, I still look at it. I understand where you're coming from. I mean, you're not justifying it. You're explaining it. Is the difference here? I still look at that and I go, it's distasteful. But that's the reality. We got to get used to that, man. These young guns with Twitter and Instagram and all those other social media platforms, that's what they're gonna do, man. They're gonna talk shit to each other. I mean, even amateurs do it. I've for the past 5-6 years, I've seen amateurs do that. They're not even fighting for an amateur championship or anything. It's just an amateur fight, and guys that already fought each other are about to get into a rematch. They start talking smack to each other. It's insane.
BDA, you remember that movie White Man Can't Jump?
Yeah.
remember when Woody Harrison, his character beats, he kind of tricks Wesley Snipes into a game of free throws. Who can get 5 out of, how many shots they could get in 5 attempts. And there's this dude who's holding the money. They make a bet. And Wesley Snipes is mad because he lost. And he goes up to the dude. He's like, "Nah, it's some bullshit. It's some bullshit." He's trying to get the money. And the black dude is just smiling. He's like, "You lost, bro. Get over it. You lost." That's basically what they're doing to each other.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's all they're doing. They're just, "You lost, bro. I don't care about your excuses. You lost. Now I can make fun of you for at least a week,
Yeah, he's been waiting for that, right? He's been waiting for that for a long time, man. I'm telling you, though, Devin Haney just better hope he doesn't lose in this year or the next or at any time or has a bad performance. Because, again, his performances against Linares and Jojo Diaz, although I thought they were good in spots, of course, there were also small spots where he looked quite shaky indeed. So, I mean, all these fucking lightweights, they're talking shit to each other. So, if people like that and that's entertaining, that's what you're going to get from now on. With Magsayo, though, let me look at... by the way, the phone lines are open. So in case anybody wants to call in, give us your thoughts on Magsayo Rusell. What did you think? Do you think Rusell got robbed? Do you think it was controversial? Would you like to see a rematch? What do you think about Russell's excuses and the talking he's doing? By the way, did you guys see... let me just post it again. Did you see Gary Russell Jr.'s entrance? Guys?
No. I can't remember.
Yes, I did.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
I was on Thunderdome's stream and we were just laughing.
Yeah, I mean, he's done that before. He came in dressed as a Zulu war leader. And then, 3 years ago when they said, you asked him where does he get his, and he said he gets his energy and his power. He derives his greatness from his melanin. From my ethnicity. And then he said, and if you don't know what melanin is, go to Google, look that shit up.
Well, let me ask you, because I'm Mexican and we often hear, people, they often try to butter us up by saying, as boxing fans, when they try to get the Mexican market on and they use the term Mexican style, or he fights like a Mexican, meaning Mexicans have a lot of heart. Is that the same as, should that excuse Gary Russell Jr. for coming up with the whole melanin thing and, there's a certain degree of power and blackness and so on and so forth. Is that something that they do to sell the fights and therefore acceptable? Do you guys have a problem with it? Or do you think it's a little bit like, man, get off the race thing?
As a white man, I have a problem with the hypocrisy of it. I have the problem with, I actually said it the other night when he said, was it you recognize me? You talking about the lyrics to Wilder? That shit, right. Yeah, well, you say if a white guy came in with a song, white power, white excellence,
white children, beautiful white children.
Are you kidding me? The fucking then they would flip their fucking wig. You know what I mean? And it's the fucking hypocrisy. After a while, it's just gotten played out. You know what I mean? They want to make it. The same people want to make it all about race. I'm saying, Gary. He makes everything about race, and then he's the first one to blame race for any of his problems. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. That's just my piece on that.
Well, by the way, Diverse Conscious in the chat says, I don't want to see that horrible fight again. Both stank up the place. See, that's the thing, though. It wasn't the most entertaining fight, but my OCD is kicking in. But my OCD is kicking in, and I sort of want to see this thing resolved. Because that thing is going to stick in my craw, man. What would have happened had Gary Russell Jr. had his right hand?
Gary Russell's getting old too, BDA. Remember that, man. He might not have the right speed, the right instincts anymore. Yeah,
that's a possibility, man. At 33 years old, but remember, not everybody ages the same, especially little guys. I mean, people in the lower weight divisions. And at 33 years old,
they age older. Yeah, they age older than big dudes.
Hey, come on.
Big guys like 160 and up. They age better. The bigger you are, you age better. That's why, you can see a guy get stronger in his mid-30s. Think of Vladimir Klitschko. Vladimir Klitschko went in that run. He was in his mid-30s, bro. Mid-30s, mid to late 30s. 40,
Absolutely.
So Yeah, those guys get better.
And especially since he's only fighting once a year, and or twice, once every 2 years at this point. So yeah, I mean, it's not surprising to see this demise occurring. Can I say real quick, Jimmy? We got a phone call here. Phone lines are open, so feel free to call in, fellas. 817, you're on the air. 817, what's on your mind?
Yo, can you hear me?
Yes, indeed.
Hello?
Yeah, what's on your mind, man?
Yeah. I think I think most of the performance for Rusell was pretty bad. That's all on him. Sorry, I can hear myself coming back through. I honestly, earlier, I think Matrix or one of y'all was saying how Rusell performed. He had both his hands, and honestly, Mark Magsayo, he looked better when Rusell had both of his hands because it looked like he trained exclusively to counter Rusell. Mm-hmm. And when Rusell was coming in, he was eating uppercuts, he was eating check hooks, and as soon as he lost his hand in like the fourth round, Mark didn't know what to do. He looked confused. And it wasn't until later in the fight that he went back to throwing those uppercuts and those check hooks again that he was catching Rusell. And like I scored, I don't know how you guys scored it. I scored the fight like 10-2 Mark Magsayo, which people were like, "Yo, how do you even do that?" But like, you can't throw 4 pot shots, land 4 pot shots around. I think he took the round.
I agree with you.
I'm saying, like,
I agree with the caller.
Sure, he was boxing well and moving well. I'm sorry,
dude. I agree with you. I think like at first when I was watching it, I don't think I gave him any round. But then I was like, maybe I'm being a little bit too harsh on Gary Rusell. But I think the most you could give Gary Rusell, in my opinion, is 3 rounds. What did he do to win more than that? What did he do?
All three refs gave him the 12th round. Just putting that out there.
He didn't do anything. Like, I gave him 2 rounds. I think at most 4. Like, I kind of agree with you. Like you said, 3 or 4. But yeah, he just like he wasn't throwing enough. Like you can't. It's boxing. You know what I'm saying? You gotta land punches. If you're not landing punches, you're not winning the round. I don't care about how you're moving. I don't care about how slow you are.
People were giving him points like sympathy
but
points.
He just wasn't landing.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
I made that point about the all 3 giving him the 12th round because I think that was them doing everything they could to give him the fight. You know what I mean? I think he's the house fighter. I think that's the one they wanted to win. That's the guy, obviously.
What did Al Bernstein Steve Farhood, excuse me. I think Steve Farhood had it 9-3 or 8-4.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so like I'm sorry, man. Those scorecards were reaching. Like Gary Russell's been reaching for the fucking Fruit Loops all his life. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, they were trying. I mean, I don't know what they were doing. I don't even know why they would try to rob Mark Magsayo because it's not like Russell's bringing in the views. You know, the guy's kind of, I would call him a boring fighter, but he just doesn't fight enough. You know what I'm saying? Like, he hasn't fought in 2 years. And you know, it was weird. He was making excuses about like, man, I got this old injury and all this. I'm like, dude, you didn't get that checked out the 2 years you were out of the ring. Like, come on, like, he did it to himself, man.
Exactly, man. I think that's if anything, if this were a movie and there was a tagline, it would be he did this to himself. I mean,
I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. I do believe he's suffered injuries in his career, and look, we're I remember being young. I've suffered injuries, and I just let it go on its own. But had I tried to be at the level of these boxers, I would have paid for that. I would have paid for a guy who's perfectly healthy. He this is what he throws punches in his sleep. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. When he's sleeping, he's throwing.
Guys, you're a successful businessman. You would have applied if it was the same recognized. You would have applied the same standard.
Oh yeah.
You would have said, "What can I do to make my business better?"
Yeah,
and you would have said, "Okay, well, I need surgery. This is going to make me a better fighter, make me have more financial, security for my family." Of course, you would have. You wouldn't even have considered the option, right?
When you're younger, right? You think you're invincible. You do.
Yes.
You think that you're just so strong, especially when you're an athlete. You just
surgery scares athletes.
Yeah,
especially when they get cut up. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, caller, we got to move on. But anything else you want to say before we do so?
No, thanks for the show, man. It's going great. Thank y'all.
Thank you, man. Thank you for your call. Really
thanks for the call.
Yeah, really
I agree with that caller, man. 2 or 3 rounds at best for me.
Yeah. Mark Magsayo's pretty good in the sense that, I mean, there's no extra credit points, but I was just going to say, at least he's not like a wild fighter. Because a lot of the Filipinos, when they don't have a lot of experience, they get a little wild in there. This guy stayed pretty composed. He's got good balance. I mean, the Mark Magsayo, when he trades, he'll let his hands go, and he won't lose his footing. He'll keep it together. So, I mean, that's a good discipline to have.
That's a good point.
I recognize. I would say but he went too far with it. He was too disciplined. He should have been letting his. He should have just came in at a different angle, like you said. But once he was in there, he should have let his hands go, and he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you got the frickin' Al Bernstein and Mauro Ronaldo, they were all talking about it, and we got to talk about the fucking them pushing the Canelo fight later too. In the beginning, did you hear that? We'll talk about that later. That was awesome. Dude, I recorded. It's great. Oh, it was great. But anyways, let's get back to the other thing. Yeah. So yes, I blame 100% on Rusell on this.
Yeah, but like you guys said, like Gonzalo made the great point. He's very well schooled. He's on balance. I think that's also the reason why he's got power. The other reason why he's got that power, he's got those Southeast Asian calves. Did you see those bad boys? These guys got big calves. They're not quite Manny Pacquiao calves.
Yeah. I think they help, having those type of calves, like calves to upper leg ratio. I think it allows you to have like this really nice fluid balance. He just doesn't like he would do this little Manny-esque stutter step and then throw his punches, right? But the problem with him is that he wasn't consistent on that. And like Jimmy said, he was like when Rusell had two hands, he was countering to the body. He seemed to be better because he's a counterpuncher, as in compared to when Rusell did injure his arm, or he like Jimmy said, he punched his arm out of socket. It seemed like he started making more mistakes and like kind of missing a lot of shots. But just because you're missing shots doesn't mean you're losing the round. People are really not knowledgeable when it comes to scoring fights. I mean, it's bad. I've heard some people give weird scorecards. Like some people even thought Gary Rusell won because of that. I'm like,
yeah, I mean that's like
in the head, bro. You don't know boxing.
It's like that. Go ahead, go.
I was watching that uppercut that Magsayo was missing, man. That punch got poison on it, and when he was missing it, he wasn't like getting he wasn't like losing his footing and was like all over the place. He kept it together. I was like, man, he's got that uppercut's pretty good. Yeah.
Well, recognize. I think those fans you're talking about, they're using they probably don't realize, but the New Jersey sympathy rule. They stopped using that in the 70s in boxing.
Was that wait? That was an actual thing. I thought,
I'm being a douche.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was like, wait, what are you talking about? But go ahead. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no sympathy rule. Yeah, like you know what? He was injured, man. You got to give him points on that. What?
Give it time, BDA. They're going to start reversing knockouts because the guy got up and said, "Hey, man, I want to continue."
yeah, man. Hey, well, they've done, I mean, remember Kermit Cintron versus Martinez? He gets dropped. Then he tells the ref, no, he headbutted me. The ref goes, okay. And they let the fight go.
Terrible.
That was crazy, man. All right, let's go to... Hey, by the way, don't forget to hit the like button and don't forget to call in. We got the number there on the left-hand portion of your screen. Let's go to the phone lines right here. Let's go to the wild card. We got a wild card line here. 111. You're on the air. What's on your mind?
Yo. What's going on, BD?
Oh, MMA champ. What's up, man?
Going on. Gary's melanin couldn't save him.
Oh.
Listen, the Israelite that was walking Gary out couldn't save him either. He got beat by Mark Magsayo. I think the shoulder injury was real though. He didn't throw a jab, that many times in the fight. And Magsayo was hurting him like almost every round. I think it was clear that Magsayo outworked him and just beat him, But I could see what's the name? A fully, healthy Gary Rusell beating Mark Magsayo, But I'm glad. Good riddance from Gary Russell's shenanigans, fighting once every 100 years. No more of that. So I'm glad, we're getting a new champ who's actually hungry. You know, getting a Mark Magsayo who's actually entertaining. You know, unlike Gary Russell. But I think this is going to be. I think the featherweight division is starting to get good now. You know, a lot of the upsets. We had Warrington get upset by Lara. We had Gallihan get upset by Kiko Martinez. You know, I think the featherweight division is getting more exciting. But did you hear about Pacquiao's son is fighting March 12th?
You posted on the Discord. Yeah, which son is that? Is that the goofy looking one, or well, I think they're all a little goofy looking, but
that's Junior. That's Junior.
Okay.
Pacquiao.
That's the one with the afro. That's the one with the afro.
Yeah, the one with the afro looks like Julian Jackson.
Well, I tell you, MMA champ, I don't see this ending well for Pacquiao's son. I mean, I've never seen him fight, but from what history tells us, well, he hung up. Yeah, from what history tells us is the sons of all-time great fighters. They don't usually do all that well when it comes to boxing. Let's go to
almost never.
Yeah, man, it's sort of like skips a generation.
BDA, I sent you a quick link. It's just not a link, but it's a 4-second video. It shows the punch broken down, you know, it shows it in regular speed, then slowed down and in magnified, so you can see it land right on the shoulder cap.
Well, let me take a phone call here real quick. We got 661 on the air. 661, you're on the air. What's on your mind?
Yo, can you hear me?
Yes, indeed. What's on your mind?
It's a little choppy. I just want to say first praises to Yashalawalaye, you know, my brothers. Amen.
All right.
This goes to show that was a joke. This goes to show that it doesn't matter of your race or your skin color. It matters of your spirit, your heart, and the will you have within, you know. And him saying he got robbed, I don't think he got robbed. I think that it's just all rigged. They pick and choose who they want. Like, you know what? He had his run. He's not really selling. You know, the most selling fight ever is Manny Pacquiao and Floyd, not because of Floyd, because of Pacquiao, because the Filipino base is so huge. So I think that's what it is. Like, they not rigged, but they say, we have the opportunity. If he doesn't knock this dude out, we're just gonna. It's over with. It's this dude's time now to shine, right? Same thing with Teofimo Lopez. That was a real robbery you saw, right? I think that wasn't enough to beat Teal. It should have been a draw at least, and then a rematch to settle it, because he dropped Kambosos. He dropped them even harder than Kambosos dropped Teal. That was just a flash knockout, right? But still, they gave it to Kambosos, and that's all it is. It's not rigged, but I feel like they pick. They have their time stamps. All right, that's it. That's it. It's his time now.
All right. Well, listen, that's one man's opinion.
I was going to say, a drop is a drop.
Yeah, that's one man's opinion on that. What? And fighter spirit, thank you for your call. We'll catch you in the next one, all right, man?
All right, y'all. Peace.
Oh, that was
all right, enjoy your Sunday, man.
What's going on?
Yeah, enjoy your Sunday, man. Yeah, he said a lot of statements here, but I mean, I don't have time to go through each one. You know, anyway.
Right. No, and when he just said he dropped him harder than he dropped him, I'm like, it's 10-8. You know what I mean? You only get dropped. Dropped is dropped. You don't get levels of dropped.
I don't have the energy to go.
Yeah,
it's the same energy we use on the Open Life Friday. Yeah, I can't do it. I need to recharge my batteries from it. I'm not a young man anymore. Not a young man.
I didn't think Kambosos was going to survive that round, though, man. He's lucky to have gotten out that round.
Now, you know what, man? Yeah, I mean, that fight went down to the wire, too. It wasn't like Kambosos schooled the guy. All right, let's go to the phone call here. Let's go to 305. You're on the air. 305. What's on your mind?
Hi, B-Day. How are you today?
Doing fantastic. How about yourself, man?
I'm doing good. Honestly, I want to talk about the Magsayo fight. To me, I said this on other platforms. Honestly, I think the layoff seriously affected Gary Rusell. He had only been fighting 2 or 3 times once a year, and laying off for 6 to 7 months can affect a fighter. Even him for me, even though he's training all the time, training and being in a fight are two completely different things. Do you guys agree?
Absolutely, yeah. We share your same
Absolutely.
opinion, man. Yeah.
And hanging around a gym and training other people,
also,
hitting a bag is not the same thing at all.
Now people are expecting it. Well, another thing is now after this fight, after the fight, honestly, there's fans expecting him to be Manny Pacquiao. Like he people are saying he's the next superstar out of the Philippines. To me, he reminds me a little bit of Nonito, not Manny. Do you guys agree? Like with the comparison of Magsayo to Nonito?
Yeah, he's a counterpuncher pretty much. He's not gonna lead all that much. And look, he's a good fighter. Don't get me wrong. Explosiveness, like Gonzalo said, he's got good balance. But there's something missing with him. A couple of things missing, and I don't think he's gonna be holding on to that title for too long. But caller, anything else you want to say before we go ahead? Yes.
Yes. Do you guys think the fight that's actually more after this fight? The fight. If the fight with Shakur and Valdez finishes like how we expect, do you think the and Shakur dominating him, do you think honestly the next fight, the actual fight that actually would cause him the most problems would be Navarrete because of the awkward angles he throws his punches from and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think so, man. I think Navarrete gives him a better fight, much more difficult fight than Valdez. Valdez's shots are he relies too much on hooks. Navarrete, he'll set up his shots with feints. He throws lead uppercuts. His defense is a little bit better than Valdez, believe it or not. Even though he looks very awkward doing it, I think he's harder to hit than Valdez is. So
he reminds me a little bit of Marcos Maidana. He reminds me of Maidana a little bit in terms of the awkward angles he throws his punches at. Do you guys agree?
I would say so, man. He throws shots from weird angles and they still have power, even though they look loopy and wild and wide. He still nevertheless retains power. So that's something that's strange, right? But you know what? Yeah, that's a good one, man. But Shakur Stevenson still has to get past Valdez. So caller, listen, we got to move on.
Yeah, and I honestly, for me, I think for me, I'm one of the people that favors Valdez in this fight. I honestly think Valdez can knock him out. People are underestimating. This is what's going to happen with Shakur. People are hyping it like this is what happened with Tio. People are overlooking Valdez a little bit, and Valdez can knock him out. Valdez has the power.
That's true. That's absolutely. You're absolutely right there. That's something that we're going to talk about as well, man, because it's something that I think people have been hypnotized a little bit by Shakur Stevenson. But anyway, listen, caller, we have to move on to other subjects, but thank you for your call. Call back next time, right, man?
Okay, bye.
All right, take it easy, man. Thank you for calling. All right. Jimmy, you want to say something?
Me? No. I'm sorry. I forgot I wasn't on mute and I was talking to my dog. Sorry.
He's got to do something different if it's not working. He's got to show more variation than what he displayed against Consensao. Because if you're doing something and it's not working and you keep doing it again, isn't that like the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. It's not going to work. Shakur's a good boxer. If something ain't working, you got to switch it up. And if that ain't working, you got to switch it up again.
That's true, man. Right? That's absolutely true, yeah.
And he is very hard to hit. Shakur Stevens is a hard kid to hit clean. So.
I don't know about his chin, though. His chin and his heart. People keep, look, he beat Herring. He did what we wanted him to do, which was to throw more shots. But he never dropped Herring. Once he saw Herring had nothing for him, he turned it up. What happens if he tastes Valdez's power, just like we did with Nakatalia, and he goes, you know what? I'm going to play it ultra safe and just throw one shot at a time and make him miss, one shot at a time clinch, one shot at a time clinch. You know what I mean? It's like maybe with certain judges, maybe they give the edge to Valdez if it's that close a fight and he can't dominate Valdez. I mean, you just never know. I think the caller's onto something. It's people are overrating Shakur Stevenson just a tiny little bit here, just a tiny little bit.
Well, we still don't know his chin. We don't know, has he ever taken on a heavy puncher who can hit him? I mean, he's been hit by? I don't think so. I mean, his first 10 fights, he was matched soft and in silk pajamas.
Exactly.
So it's really been in his last few fights, and he hasn't really fucking faced anybody who can hit. Herring, I mean, great guy, man. All the respect in the world to him. I really like him as a person, but come on. That dude don't hit hard. Never has hit hard.
Yeah, he actually exerted himself more in that car wash brawl. By the way, shout out to Azeban for his contribution with the super chat. He says, "Salute BDA and everyone enjoying the show here." All right, Azeban, thank you for your contribution and glad you're enjoying the show, man. Listen, I wanted to talk about the undercard. Subriel Matias. We were all looking forward to this fight. Matias versus Ananian, the rematch. Both men came to fight. This time, Matias came in with a full tank of gas and, as always, mean intentions. He just beat the crap out of this guy. And you can understand now. I think if you didn't understand before, for the people out there, you'll understand now why this guy was able to, unfortunately, take away Dadashev's life. He dishes out the type of long beatings that take stuff out of you. Dangerous. Fellas, what did you think about Matias? Did you think he stole the show last night?
I thought he looked good, and I thought the other kid conditioning wasn't right. He didn't have the conditioning for the fight, and he used the ref to quit. I'm just going to be honest. I mean, the
doctor.
The doctor. Yeah, he used the doctor to quit. But, I mean, all you have to do is purposely follow the finger. And you could see it when he was following it, then he suddenly stopped. You either follow it or you don't. You know what I'm saying, dude? He didn't want to continue, and he knew all he had to do was just not follow the finger. Everybody knows that. No,
yeah, because he had his eyes
reactions
open.
Already slow.
Yeah, because I saw his eyes open.
Go, brothers. Continue.
Yeah, I was just going to say, because his eyes were open, and Anian's eyes were open. So I'm thinking, what the fuck? Why you can't follow the eyes? He wanted out. And I can't blame the guy, man. He was taking a beating there. And his power, he was relying on those big hooks of his and overhand rights to get the job done. And Matias, you know what impressed me more about Matias as well? Every time he took a shot, he came back with 3-4 shots of his own. Clean shots. He came in here with a type of determination that makes me go, wow, this guy, if he shows up like that every night, long night for whoever he fights. Long night.
Well, ideally, that's the best thing to do. Anytime someone hits you hard, you're able to crack him right back. That's demoralizing. Like, God damn, I just gave that kid a nasty shot, and he just fucking threw 3 right back at me. It makes people rethink when they're going to, wind up to hit you. Because the bigger you throw, the bigger you miss. The bigger you miss, the more open you are.
Yeah, he's a good fighter. He brings that incessant pressure, Matias Uriel. But I don't think he's going to be around for too long with the type of punishment he also takes up, because he likes to soak up the punishment and return fire. You can't keep doing that fight and fight it over and over again, because it's going to wear you in. And I think that's the fate that this fighter's going to have in the near future. He's going to be on top for a little while. Well, he's not on top yet, but he'll probably get a belt, but he won't remain at the level where he's beating everybody down for more than a couple years.
But it's weird though, and I agree with you, Gonzalo. But the reason why that is because the infrequency of fighting. Mickey Ward took beatings like that his whole fucking career, for 17 years. Guys would normally take beatings, but we would have to fight 5-6 times a year. Again, it's all part of the punch, Carlos. You know what I mean? Because he took some good shots, but nothing that fighters used to take all the time and fight 90 days later, regularly.
But
that's the reason. That's the problem with it.
That style, when you're coming forward and you're taking shots in order to throw yours, and I mean, Subriel Matias, it's getting hit.
Mickey Ward, all this stuff. Yeah.
140-pounder, and I was thinking, what if this was like Julio Cesar Chavez Sr.? What would be the difference between, because Chavez was also a pressure fighter. Well, Chavez used to move his waist. And it's not really that when he was getting hit by punches, it's because he was really, really bothered by the opponent's shots, because Chavez did have a granite chin. But when you move your waist as well, you find more openings, because you're moving from side to side and you're looking at the open spots in your opponent's body or like, the side of his face, you're able to find more openings, and at the same time, you're not getting hit as much as well. And then you're landing your shots.
And another big difference between him and Julio Cesar Sr., in 2 weeks from now, Julio would be going to another training camp for his next fight.
Or another fight.
Won't even be talking about fighting anybody again until probably October. And it's, it's not a winning fucking combination.
Gonzalo also brought up the point about the defense. I think Matias has good defense, but he's inconsistent with it. I think that's one of the main problems. Now, the thing is, even when he blocks shots and rolls with him, he's still his body is still receiving the impact. His brain is still being shaken up a little bit. So I agree with Gonzalo. We'll keep an eye on him, see how long he can continue fighting this way. Because
why move? Why move, BDA? Right? If you take the punch and you stay with the intention of throwing back, then you're probably gonna hit your opponent easier than swerving out the way, than mounting an offense. No, you just take the punch, but then you land yours. But what the problem with that is that shortens your career, right?
That's true, yeah. Like Jared Hurd. Remember when people were saying, man, Jared Hurd can take a punch, blah, blah, blah. And I remember saying, well, yeah, it's true. He's dangerous now, but how long is that going to last? And look at him now. He's pretty much shot, man. I mean...
Yeah, I was thinking Jared Hurd all the time.
He weight trained himself out of boxing. That's what taxed his body. I mean, those crazy weight drops. The kid was walking around at 185, 190 pounds and fighting at 154?
Yeah, he looked like a fucking cruiserweight in there when he fought Lara. I mean, it's insane. So let's chalk it up to weight training himself and taking flush shots. I mean, those two things didn't help him.
No, absolutely. A combination of both, of course.
So with Matias, man, listen, I'm looking at let's look at the junior welterweight rankings. We already did this on Friday, I believe, but let's just look at it back. Because now Matias ended up winning, so we get a clear picture of what could go down the line. Matias is rated number 5. I don't know if he's going to go up in the ratings. Ananian wasn't even ranked in here, I don't think. So they could...
I like that kid, BBA. That Matias kid, he fucking hits like a killer, bro.
Yeah, and listen,
BBA, he kills somebody, right? He killed a man. It doesn't affect him. It doesn't really affect him. It's like he's willing to be killed and kill you at the same time. Like he's fine with that.
Jesus.
And the doctor stopped the fight because that's the reputation you have now. That you took some dude's life, and it's kind of dangerous if they would have allowed.
He did look punch, Gonzalo. He looked punch drunk, bro. Ananya, whatever his name is, and I could see why he beat Matias in the first fight. He stands toe-to-toe with him. He stands toe-to-toe in the pocket and lands his big shots. And Matias has to respect that. But in the end, that Matias kid is going to get you. He's too strong, bro.
Yeah, the dude wanted out. But what if the doctor would have let him out? That would have been on her. She wasn't willing to take that risk.
I can't blame her.
Yeah, he did the right thing. I think he just wanted out, and he knew if he didn't follow the finger. But I recognize you're 100% right. Those African kids, Naibian, Ghanaians, like Kami was as serious as a heart attack when he told the ref. He goes, "No, I will die in here." Remember, he's like, "Do you want?" He's like, "Don't stop the fight. I'll die. I want to die." And that's remember how he put it. He was serious as a heart attack. Oh yeah, no, they're warriors, man. They come in, no doubt, dude. You're 100% right.
But that's the thing, like
if he takes your life, he takes your life. But if you take his, I believe those motherfuckers are fine with it.
Yep.
That's the thing about Go ahead, Gonzalo. Sorry.
No, just shout out to the referee, the female. She did a good job, Although that big buck kept getting in the way, That badunk, it kept blocking my screen.
Yeah. By the way, I think that
she did do a good job. I thought. I think she's so far. She has been a good ref. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, people were talking about her ass. On Discord, she had a big ass, and but she killed as long as she can move around.
You need to back that thing up. You back it up.
Oh man, but I was gonna say about Matias. First of all, it's a nice little add-on for Puerto Rico to recognize because you guys were, I hate to say it, but the great boxing nation of Puerto Rico was lacking a little bit in this past decade. Now we finally get Matias
Hey,
back.
I'm riding with the brother from PR. That's all I'm riding with.
But you know what, man? It's also, I think, that like what Jimmy says, we're talking about whether what's his name, Ananian gave up a little bit. I think he did too, man, because he did. Matias took it out of him, man.
Jimmy's right. Jimmy's right. When that doctor came, he played along. He's like, yeah, I think maybe you need to stop the fight.
But you know what?
Yeah, man, I'm cool with it.
I can't blame him. He was relying on things going the way they had in the first fight, which was he hurt Matias late and then won the later rounds. He knew he wasn't going to happen.
He looked punch drunk. He looked like a guy who's had broken faces. Like, there's bones in the facial area that are broken. I don't know what his diagnosis is, but from the look of it, I wouldn't be surprised if he broke the orbital bone, the cheekbone, or a fracture. At the very least, a fracture.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, and he got what was it, Hadius extracto. I think he got his heart ripped out.
Yeah,
that's basically what happened. You can feel it when you're in there, dude. You know what I'm saying, dude, right? You feel a dude getting weaker. You can feel it. You feel it in the clits. You feel it in his punches, and you feel yourself imposing as well. He felt himself getting weaker, and he felt that dude getting strong, and he knew it was a matter of time. So I think, yeah, and I'm not calling this kid out or calling him a punk, coward, anything. He was taking a beating.
Sounds like you are, right? A little bit. Sounds like you're calling him a bitch.
I'm just saying.
A little bit. I'm just saying a little bit.
Yeah, no, he probably did sound like I was saying that, but I think he definitely, because he started following his fingers, and when you have lazy eye, like when you get that eye thing where you can't focus on anything because you're in a concussive state, it doesn't come and go. You know what I'm saying? Like his cornerman said something, his eyes turned and focused, made instant eye contact with the fucking woman until she said, ball of my finger. And then he went and turned a zombie. You know what I mean?
Exactly,
like, okay, here we go. Come on. Yeah. It is what it is. But I don't blame him for bailing. You see what I'm saying? It wasn't going to get any better for him.
Exactly. I mean, he was in trouble there, man. Now, one of the things we were talking about on Friday was what's next for Matias, or the winner of the Matias Ananian fight, which is obviously now Matias. Gary Antoine Russell is going to be fighting Victor Postal in a junior welterweight matchup. So, what I'm thinking, the logical thing here is both guys start with the PBC. What if Gary Russell Jr. gets past? Gary Antoine Russell. What if he gets past the always tricky Victor Postal? Do they match him up with Matias? What if Matias gets matched up against a, Regis Pro? Like, that's what I'm interested in. How good is Matias?
Wait a minute, brother. Are you expecting Al Heyman to fight Postel and then come back and fight another good guy?
No. So I guess my question then becomes...
Brother. That was awesome.
Matias is really good. He's dangerous. Just because he takes a lot of punches and his career is probably going to be short, that doesn't mean that the next out... That's going to happen in the next out. No, that's going to happen in the future. But for now, I think Jimmy said when you throw big and you miss, it's worse, right? Because you miss big. Well, Matias doesn't throw big. He just throws. So he's there to throw again. So that relentless pressure and the fact that he can continue throwing without loading up allows him to keep throwing and landing. And even if he misses, he could correct and punch again without being exposed to getting countered big, because he's just missing where he's not putting everything on it. So he's dangerous in that sense that he could keep punching and punching. Whether he misses or lands, he could continue doing it. And if he takes a beating and where he's going to get broken down, this is not going to be the next fight. So he's going to remain dangerous, and that style's going to be dangerous in the near future.
Excellent point, man. And you know what? If you watch, remember I showed you the clips from the Jambalaya fight, which was Matias' last fight. I know that's not the guy's name, but that's what I call him. The Kazakh guy who had big power. Again, Matias took the power, blocked, good defense, underrated defense. And I have to say that because Reese Mack keeps saying, but Matias blocked a lot of shots. Yeah, we know he's blocking, but he's still taking... He at least takes 3 big flush shots around. It's almost like he doesn't care. So that's what we're trying to get at here. But anyway, against Jambalaya, when he dropped Jambalaya, there were two shots that they looked like arm shots. So I think that what happens with Matias is he's a naturally heavy-handed guy, but he slaps with his shots. And that's why he's dangerous, because he can throw 50, 60 slaps per round as opposed to 30 good, technically, proficient shots. But they're still heavy shots. And that's how he beats up these guys and, kills them essentially. Because he's a heavy-handed guy that doesn't put everything into them and just slaps, but that allows him to throw 70 punches around and just beat the crap out of these guys. It's really dangerous to fight a guy like that, man. Short shots like that.
Yeah, exactly, man. He's like you said, he can slap you, then land those knuckle punches, and they're thudding, man. They take the life out of you. That's what it looks like. It just takes the life out of you.
And it's a very rare thing to see, because a lot of the times, most of the times, that when a fighter throws pity pats is because he can punch. Because if that fighter could punch, he would. Believe me, he would. But this guy, he actually has heavy hands, but he's throwing them pity pats because that's his plan. Mm-hmm. His plan is like what you just said. Break you down like that. He doesn't get too greedy. Like sometimes we think, that he's a one-trick pony. He relies on that power. No, but this guy, he knows he's got the power, but he chooses just to throw the arm shots, right?
He's never gone the distance. I mean, he's never won and gone the distance. He's
basically 100% in terms of wins and knockouts. He wins all his fights by knockouts. The one time he did go the distance was against this guy, and he lost it a decision. He's beatable. Like I saw him even get a little bit, rocked a little bit. You know what I'm saying? I saw that because I never watched the first fight, BDA. I never watched Anaya and Mateus.
I showed you the highlights the last time. What are you talking about?
Yeah, you did. You did show me the highlights. You did, but I didn't see the I didn't see the whole fight.
You don't need to see the actual fight. I show you the highlight. No, I'm kidding.
All right,
go ahead, man. Go ahead.
He's like, yo, shut up, man. I already told you.
No, but okay. Let me ask you this, man. Historically, what type of style is the ideal style to beat a guy like Matias?
Boxer, a guy with good lateral movement. Box him, circle him, jab, overhand right, step in here and there. Because when you step in with him, you still got to be careful, but there's opportunities. And I didn't show that. He threw a lot of uppercuts and caught Mateus. So like I would say a boxer puncher. Puncher. Yeah.
Or a style similar to his, but a guy that's probably not gonna take as much punishment. Because when you bully the bully, he don't like it, and that happened to him against Petros, this guy that he just fought the first time. But the thing is that he was getting hit way too much. So like a boxer puncher.
Yeah.
All right. So you guys would favor Josh Taylor over him, right? Like he would probably keep him at a distance.
I would favor Josh Taylor. Yep.
Right.
I would.
How about Regis Prograis?
It'd be a great fight though, BDA. It'd be a good fight.
What about Regis Prograis?
Oh my God, dude! If you could get me that fight, I'll pay $75 for this. I would. Get me that fight. I'll pay $75.
I'd favor Regis Prograis because he goes good to the body. He goes good to the body, and he's a boxer puncher. He can be very elusive sometimes too.
BDA,
but he's didn't kind of go with his own.
If there's any way you can get me that fight, I'll be forever indebted to you. Get me that fight. I need to see it.
Let me make a couple of phone calls, man. See what I can do.
Thank you.
Yeah, Regis Prograis, he's always in exciting fights. He comes to fight. He's kind of in a promotional limbo, right? He does work with the PBC, but he's not an actual Heyman fighter. You know what I mean? So that's why he's able to go on DAZN and shit. They were trying to make that Mickey Garcia fight. So I don't know. I mean, is Al Heyman, if he can't make the money on both ends, I mean, he's been very reluctant in the past to make any of those fights. There's so many great fights that could happen out there if they just cross the street each other.
Yeah, but we're just... I agree with you. Obviously, you're right, but we're just talking. I'm just trying to get an opinion here from people all across the board. of who they would favor Matias. So like Jose
Yeah,
Ramirez.
how good is Matias? How good is he? What do you rate him amongst 140 top guys?
That's what I was thinking too. Has he really faced a puncher? Because I didn't know too much about the Dadichev kid. Rest in peace, Jambalaya or Petros Ananyan. Were they really punchers? Because I mean, yeah, he was there. That you throw, I throw, back and forth, seesaw battle. But put in a guy that could really, really back up Matias or hurt him with one shot. How is Matias going to react? Is he going to keep with what he was doing in these last fights, doing the same back and forth?
It's a good point, Gonzalo. And that's why I think Regis Prograis will beat him. I'm not saying he can't beat Prograis, but I think that Prograis will make him respect his power enough. He'll back him up and might break, Subriel's mentality a little bit, or just enough to beat him.
Yeah, because if you think about it, Prograis already went to war with Josh Taylor. I mean, he stood in there, and it was that type of fight, a phone booth fight, and he didn't break against a big puncher like Taylor. So I guess Matias.
You see what he did. You see what he did to Taylor's face. I mean, he lost the fight. I would definitely, in my opinion, he lost. It was a good fight, but man, he did some damage to Taylor in that fucking fight.
Yeah, man. Hold on a second. Yeah, because the thing is, like Gonzalo said, he fights these guys who are, young, coming out of the amateurs, Eastern Europeans, and they got a lot of talent, but they don't have that professional wherewithal to go 12 rounds with a guy who's not going anywhere. You can hit him with your best shots, and he's not going anywhere. So he demoralizes them. Prograis doesn't get demoralized. Same thing with Jose Ramirez, Josh Taylor. I mean, those guys are the cream of the crop. So with Matias, it would be, he's with the PBC, so unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see him too often. But man, if he could get 3 fights a year, like Matrix said, man, put him in there against Prograis, and I'll pay the fucking $80, man. Even though it's not a big fight, mainstream fight, man, I'd be willing to pay for that. Jimmy, you mentioned
always a little suspect. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
It's always a little suspect when you got a fighter that got all his victories by knockout. I mean, he's passed certain tests that way you could say that obviously he's not a hype job. But where you got like the Berlangas, 100% KO ratio. Virgil Ortiz is still on that path, all knockouts, all victories. But it comes a point in time where you got to think, all right, is he going to steamroll everybody? Because obviously he's going to have to face somebody that's going to put that to the test. Mm-hmm. And if you got everything by knockout, it just tells you, it's a little indication that maybe he could be fighting other fighters that are probably tougher. And when he faces those fighters, then we're really going to find out what's up.
Exactly. Yeah, very well said, man. Let's go to a phone call here real quick. Don't forget the phone lines are open, so if you want to call in, let us know. 301, you're on the air. 301, what's on your mind?
Hey, guys. Yeah, I did want to comment more about the Matias and Anyan fight, because I think it's like, it might be like the fight of the year, maybe like a weak one, I guess, but it was still a great fight. I actually noticed, I wanted to kind of respond to some general points about Matias in his sort of understanding of a boxer, Mm-hmm. And I think he's like a lot smarter, I think he's similar in his approach to like Bederbiev a little bit. Doesn't do as much in and out stuff, but in that he like kind of picks the shot to block as a way to like gauge his range. And it's kind of a smart thing, because if you notice carefully, like Ananyan, like I think Gonzalo was asking if he counts as like a puncher, if the guys so far that Matias' fought count as punchers. You can see a lot of the times, like when Matias was blocking that left hook, he was moving him, even though he was like sitting down and really holding his ground and blocking it. And so like those are kind of the shots that can like wear you down and kind of slowly like break you down. But he seems to be the kind of guy who can withstand that. And I think the reason he knows that, and the reason he kind of stands there, is to get your rhythm when you're on the inside. Like you have to continue circling, particularly to your left. And I think he kind of finds ways to out-time you and kind of start landing his jab. And like what that does is breaks up your breathing when you're kind of trying to find pockets of rest in there. When you're just fighting, like if you think about it, they're fighting like an inside almost all night. There are a few moments when Matias actually let Ananyan back him up to the ropes. And I think that's kind of just a strategy. He just knows how to like pick and choose the times where he's going to put it on you. And that's what really breaks you down over the course of the fight. So even if like Ananyan knows that this is the kind of guy who's not going to go away down the stretch, he still finds ways to outthink you. So I think he's a little more impressive than just like your garden variety, like really pressure fighter. You know, he has a real intuitive feel for boxing and for hurting people.
Yeah, man.
Obviously.
I think that's an excellent point. He's a dangerous guy. He knows when to relax and he knows when to snap those shots, which takes practice and it takes a certain amount of skill to do.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to mention before we move on?
Teach, you know?
Yeah. Anything else you want to say
No,
before
that was basically it.
All right, good point, man. Yeah, that's why, again, Matthias, dangerous
good
fighter,
call.
man. Take it easy, man. Thank you for calling in.
Yeah.
All right, so don't forget, the number is right there in the left-hand portion of your screen, 1-657-383-1147. Don't forget to hit the like button, fellas. Hit the like. Jimmy, you mentioned something about the Showtime talked about Canelo. Now, I didn't hear any of that.
Yes.
You said it was funny. Hold on, give me 2 seconds here because I'm setting up. I gotta go. I gotta leave for 2 minutes, but I want to listen to what you have to say. So I'm setting up my new phone here. You know, I'm a Luddite when it comes to technology, so I'm not. All right, go ahead, Jimmy, please.
Well, in the beginning, it started off, they were talking about the year they had. And Brian Custer, I mean, this dude has no fucking self-awareness. So, like, he went on to say how it was the biggest year of Showtime Combat Sports. We had 6 pay-per-views. That's the most in ever. Like, and it was a good thing. And then fucking Morale, yes, we did. And it was just, yeah, but did you see what they were outside of Fury? You know, Wilder, I guess that's the only one you could say which should have been a pay-per-view. Oh, and Canelo, you know, against Plant. I mean, Canelo's at that pay. Well, he is when he's with the PBC. If his own, they were putting him on, you know, their app. But yeah, so and then they went on to talk about Canelo. It was so slick. The first they just talk about the year they had, and then Marlo brought up Canelo, and then Al Bernstein started talking about, and he started mentioning the guys at that weight and Canelo's possible opponents. He heard he'd be fighting Charlo next. It was just so they were pushing the narrative of Canelo staying with the PBC, and here's the guy's going to fight. And after they talked up Charlo, that could be kind of the fight. And then Brian Costa goes in to who's the kid with the glasses, the dark glasses? Abner Mares. He seems like a nice kid, but my God, he shouldn't be doing color. I mean, it'd be like me doing it, dude. You know what I mean? People can't understand me half the fucking time, and I think that kid has and he gets tongue-tied, and I don't know, anyway, it was just horrible. But anyway, so he goes on, now it was his turn to talk up Benavidez, and oh my God, and that's exactly what he said, oh my God, the talent this kid has, a lot of people saying he's the guy who could beat him. It's like, you guys, why don't you just fucking hang a sign, you know? It's like they're trying to create the public narrative that, you know what I mean, through Twitter and everything, you know what I mean? But yeah, he was saying how everybody he fights is good, and you know he's got the power to stop anybody. And it's like I'm looking around, I'm like, listen, I like Benavidez, I like it. That kid comes to fight. He's like I said, he's the type of dude who would be knocking fools out in the street. You know, he's a fighter. You can tell. Some guys are athletes, Charlo, and some guys are natural fighters, Benavidez. But I think he's limited. Personally, I think he's tailor-made for Canelo. Completely upright, head on a fucking upright. He's got no feints, doesn't fucking move too much at the waist. I think he'd be begging for one of those jumping Canelo hooks. But and as for punching power, I don't think he's got devastating power like Abner Mares said. I think he has concussive power, and it's commutative. Like, you know, over time he's going to do you in. But to say he's fought, and again, it's just the narrative they carry over, like, they never talk about it. Actually, Mauro Ronaldo, I got to give him credit. He kind of throws little jabs, and so did Al Bernstein. They talked up Davis. Is this the year he's going to finally fight the fucking mega fight, the mega star? It's like, dude, mega star. How about somebody in the top 10, a legit top 10 opponent? Let's start with that, you know? But anyways, I just thought the propaganda was laid on fucking thick and heavy, and they definitely spoke like Canelo's PBC property. Now, like, he's a part of the team, and I just don't think that's the case. I think if an opportunity arises where Canelo can see money or a better opportunity for him somewhere else, he's going to take that next. And I think they want to return on that $35 million investment. Anyways, what do you guys think?
So you're saying they're desperate to get Canelo back because they know they're. But why would Showtime have a stake in it? I mean, if they're sort of being weeded out, right? Or weaned out from the boxing business. That's why they only have about 6-7 cards per year.
I think Heyman's going to give them everything good, and I think he's showing that by giving Fox horrible pay-per-views now. I mean, look what they just gave. Was that Fox on the Showtime Ortiz, or was that? I don't know, but I know the next one, Thurman Barrios, that's on Fox. That fucking thing ain't going to sell. I mean, so are they going to try at least put the decent fights, decent pay-per-views on Showtime? Because I know Fox isn't renewing their deal. That's obvious. They're done with the PBC. So what is he going to do? He's either going to have to get a shit ton of more money out of Showtime and a lot more slots. I don't think they're going to do it now. I mean, there's only so much money they have allocated for that with the Bellator. What is he going to do? He needs to sow a relationship. And something you don't wait till the last minute. I don't hear anything. Is Dana White waiting for him to blow the fucking thing up and just, you know what I mean, get bargain, get in on it? Because he did check into it before, and I guess the number was ridiculous. Because all you're getting at the end of the day is contracts. That's all you're getting. You're getting contracted fighters. There's nothing proprietary coming with it. Just a bunch of contracts. And he wanted hundreds of millions of dollars. Like, fuck out here. And you got the name PBC?
Jimmy, this whole PBC thing is bizarre, man. The fact that it's lasted so long on live support. The fact that, the other day I saw some LDBC channels like, it turns out Crawford ain't signing with Mayweather. And I'm thinking, well, what do you expect? You really think Mayweather has the know-how and the infrastructure to successfully promote a guy like Crawford and put on big events? It takes hard work, man. And so going back to the Showtime PBC thing, it's intriguing, man. What are they going to do? Are they going to, like you said, if they sell to Dana White, then he's got the contract, so he keeps those guys in-house, right? Is what you're saying?
Yeah, and he has an infrastructure, dude. He has apps, like he has different streaming programs. Like he's all entrenched. He could just add that to boxing. But I'll tell you right now, the PBC guys aren't going to like it, because one thing about Dana, I think he's a fucking horrible human being, but he don't give a fuck about these fighters.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Tough, because he won't want to keep them hanging around. Sorry, brother, what's that?
No, that's what I was going to ask you, because these fighters are used on TV. They're used to getting 500,000, a fight and all that if they're on Showtime, or 250 grand. That's main event money over at the UFC. So what's gonna those guys aren't gonna get paid. Dana White's not gonna pay them that, because then if he pays them that, the UFC guys are gonna go, well, why aren't we getting paid that money? It just makes
UFC's under a different type of thing, because they're signed to the UFC, not just.
I know,
Dana White is like a.
But it's not a good look, is what I'm saying.
He's gonna have to go industry standard, I would imagine, right? Whatever, like the industry standard for whatever. They would figure it out if Top Rank is paying this guy at your same position, and say DAZN's paying a guy in your weight class in the same position as you, and they can try and kind of triangle it some way that way. But he's not going to be able to come in and start offering, because those guys will just bail. I mean, if if he tries to paying like he's paying the UFC guys, it's not going to work, because he's got the UFC dudes by the balls. They can't go fight anywhere else. You know what I'm saying? They can't even use their name or lend their likeness to something while they're under the fucking UFC contract.
Yeah.
Whereas boxers, they can supposedly. And again, he wouldn't get it. He wouldn't take it in unless you get it at a bargain price. And then, honestly, I'd love to see him do it. And again, I'm not a fan. You guys know that. I'm not a fan of Dana White at all. But I think he would say, okay, I got 220 fighters coming with all this. Well, let's weed out half these fucking boneheads right away. Match them tough. Let's see what I got. There's a reason Bob matches people tough. A, it brings in the numbers. And B, he doesn't want to carry fucking loose weight, because it costs him money to keep a fighter on fucking signed to the Top Rank.
Thin the herd is what he's looking for.
Thin the herd, exactly. That's what Dana would do. He would thin the herd.
Well, Jimmy, that's very interesting, man. I want to get back to that a little bit more. We do have a couple of phone calls, so let's go to them. Don't forget, fellas, hit the like button, please. It really helps us out. 914, you're on the air. 914, what's on your mind?
Hi, I wanted to direct this question to Jimmy. I want to see what he has to say about this. What the hell is with Sam Watson? What does he have to get his face into every shot on the camera?
Jimmy?
Poor Sam. People say, I'm going to be honest, people say he's a really nice guy. I just want to put that out there. So I don't want to just. They say if you meet him, he's a super nice guy. Remembers your name. He's a class act. So I want to say that. But at the same token, he's a professional. He's a professional.
That's what he Gary Rusell. He was all for him. Then it looked like he had a disease at the end of the fight, and you couldn't go near him anymore.
Yeah, well, he has to go with the winner. He's representing the PBC. He's there to make sure the winner thanks Al Heyman, and what I found really weird last night, to show you how bad Jim fucking Gray is on board with chilling with the PBC. He actually said it because it's so commonplace. He hears, when you see Sam Watson standing behind fighters, he's whispering, "Thank Al Heyman, thank Al Heyman." Thank Al. You see his lips. He's saying it all the time. It's so commonplace that fucking Jim Gray said it because I forget who was talking. He said what? He turned to Sam Watson and Jim Gray, "Thank Al Heyman," and he started laughing. So Jim Gray said it for him.
Jim Gray,
but that's basically what he's there to make sure Heyman gets the fucking props. That's all he's there for. Heyman doesn't do interviews, doesn't go in public because he sends fucking Watson out to do it.
Yeah, that's his water boy, and he does everything for him, and it's disgusting. And I think he should keep his mug out of the shots.
Well, he's getting paid to get his mug.
Bother me.
Yeah, he's getting paid to get his mug on the shot. So anyway, 914. Thank you for your call, man, and call back next time, right, man?
Yeah, I like that call.
Take it easy, man. Yeah, it's very few people. Hey, what a coincidence, man. His name is Watson. He's the underling. What does that make Al Heyman? Sherlock Holmes? All right, let's go to...
But even his sons, too. His sons are the real hanger-on.
The twins?
The failed professional baseball players.
Oh, is that what they are? They used to play baseball?
I guess they were decent baseball players, enough to be scouted, and one was maybe even drafted. I don't know. We're going to talk about something else, too. A Freeman connection. Nobody said... I just want to add real quick, the reason why I think even more that it was Heyman who fucking talked Crawford into this lawsuit. First off, that lawsuit would...
Well, can we put a hold on that?
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll put a hold on because I got a connection there. I found out about.
I'm curious to hear this now, man. Jeez, Louise, it never ends, man, with the whole Crawford drama. By the way, shout out to Chris K for his contribution with the super chat. He says, "I support robbery if it means Gary Russell Jr. loses his title." Oh, come on. But shout out to Chris K for his contribution. Hey, some people like it when other fighters lose, especially if they've been holding the belt hostage for 6 years. Let's go to 678.
Dude turned down about 6 fights over 6 years that I remember. He turned down fight after fight. Always an excuse.
678, you're on the air. 678, what's on your mind?
Yeah, so last night, Francis Ngannou and Cyril Gane fought. I'm sure you guys are aware of that. Two of the top heavyweights, the number one and the number two.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, do you know how much Ngannou made for that fight?
No.
Okay, it's like $600,000, man.
And he's a big name, right? He's supposed to be one of the biggest names in the UFC?
Oh, he's the biggest. He's the heavyweight champion. He's the number one guy. I mean, you know.
Well, that is a shame, man. But like Jimmy said, that's why Dana White, he's got him by the short and curlies.
Exactly. And Jimmy hit on exactly what my call was about. Just that, it's peanuts, man. I mean, isn't that ridiculous? I mean, these guys are like Cambosos and Haney are getting like $2 million, $3 million, and they're not Canelo.
I got a question for you, caller. If you are a UFC fan or even just a casual, but if you know the answer, who are the other top earners in the UFC?
It's going to be John Jones, McGregor,
St. Pierre.
But John Jones is too busy beating up his wife that he can't get in the ring, you know?
Okay, come on. No, but you know, it's interesting. You mentioned John Jones. It's true. He's in the Tank Davis club of running into people and then leaving the scene. And McGregor, he's a part-time fighter. And almost, some people say he's already shot. So those are the two big names the UFC has. That's why
Can I interrupt you, BDA, real quick? that comparison between Davis and Bones, the big difference is about 130 pounds, and the fact that Jones fights people who are legends.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point right there.
And again, I'm not defending. To point to the caller, I'm not defending Dana, but we got to understand, because it's still a new sport, even though it came out 30 years ago, whatever. Other promotions, there's really no other promotions. Anytime there was one even close, like one got big or whatever, UFC bought them out, bought the contracts. But outside of really UFC, maybe Bellator, that doesn't pay as well as UFC. They go and get these guys. There's one in New Hampshire. There's a bunch of them in Florida. These little fucking small organizations. You know what their champions make? They're lucky if they get 15, 20 grand to take a fucking beating. It's not against the same level of talent, but it's a beating altogether. So when they go to the UFC and that's fucking, hey, Dana White's like, yeah, you're getting 600,000 compared to boxers. That sucks. But compared to everybody else in this country who's doing this with other fucking, Frank and John's fucking MMA championships or whatever, you know what I mean? Those guys are getting paid literal peanuts. So in his mind, he's like, I'm paying you guys, we're the fucking paying you more than anybody. You don't like it, go somewhere else. And they know they can't. And that making people, when people don't have a choice, is when they get angry. And that's why they always throw bobs and shots going out the door.
It's like Butch always says.
Exactly.
Let me say one
Butch
last
always
thing.
says, if there's no competition, it turns into a
thing?
monopoly. Go ahead, caller. Sorry. What?
Exactly. Bucho's right.
No, you're good. Jimmy, I agree with everything you said. But here's the thing, like you said, fighters, MMA fighters feel like they have no other place to go. But there is Bellator, there is Dream, there are some Japanese promotions, there are some options. But with the UFC, what happens is if Ngannou didn't want to fight for 500,000, there's somebody under him that'll do it for even less than 500,000. So that's always it makes me wonder,
exactly.
Is MMA doing it right? Are they paying the fighters in a way that's going to give longevity to the organization, to the sport? Or is boxing doing it right when they're bleeding out millions of dollars for fighters like Tank Davis, Devin Haney? And I like those fighters, don't get me wrong. But I'm just curious, who's doing it wrong? Is it boxing paying the fighters too much?
I think they're both doing it wrong in a way.
Underpaying.
I think it's a combination of both. I think they're both doing it wrong and they're both doing it right. I think, listen, Dana White learned long ago, and I think it's a business decision. I think he sits down with the Zappa brothers and them and say, fuck these guys. Let's not pay them ridiculous money, because you pay these guys ridiculous money, you end up with McGregor's and his personality. You know what I mean? Once these guys make big money, it is what it is. But they don't want to get attached. They don't want to create too many superstars, because superstars demand big money. They're a pain in the ass to work with. They want to fucking have fights in certain places, whatever. And they know, to your point, caller, that UFC is big amongst the young kids today. So there's so many fighters. There's another fucking fighter who come in and, like you said, do it for even less. So I think their thing is quantity. When I saw them, the way they treated John Jones, even though he was a knucklehead, but even for him, George St. Pierre, I think, is one of the best they ever had. And they dicked him around, too. But again, it was only after they get big. It's only after they realize, when they do a pay-per-view or whatever, and they do 2 million buys, and you're in your dressing room putting an ice pack on your fucking head, you're doing the math, and after taxes, you're taking home 300 grand, and you know there's still fucking 18 million on the fucking left on the bone. You're like, wow, god damn, I at Smittens. But then you're not thinking about all the other guys who fought on the card before you got to get paid, the taxes, everything else. And again, the Zephyrs went into this as a business to earn money. There's no unit like that, one organization like that in boxing, that a government body trying to make money off the sport. It's a bunch of individuals. And so that's the reason why you end up in these price wars, which is killing boxing, let's be honest. So it's both wrong.
Caller, that was an excellent question you posed. Who's doing it right, if anyone's doing it right? And I think Jimmy's answer is correct. Jimmy, I suspect, has the Buddhist perspective. He's the middle way. It's neither one is really doing it right. But your question is correct. Who's gonna outlast who? Because paying these guys, like you said, Tank Davis, a good amount of money, and they're not making back that money with the pay-per-view sales. It's gotta end at some point. So, caller, very good call. Call back next time, right, man?
All right, y'all have a good one.
You too, man. Enjoy your Sunday.
Easy.
That's a good
BDA,
fucking question.
Yeah, BDA. Think about it. It's been kind of coincidental or lucky timing. You got DAZN came into boxing right at the right time. They were hundreds of millions of dollars to throw around. Remember the contracts they first were talking about? Fucking Canelo, $130 million, and it was just nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And then look at Haney. All right, they paid Haney $3 million to fight Gamboa, was it? Or whoever he fought, I forget now. But $3 million for Linares. And because of that, other promoters don't even want to talk to him. Like PBC said, we can't afford that. We're not going to throw him anywhere near that kind of money. So you see what you're saying? Like, yeah, you might make some money in the long run. In the long run, though, it's going to hurt you. You know what I mean? Make your money. So you can overpay fighters. I think boxing has proved that time and time again.
That's right. And listen, MMA guys train just as hard as boxers. So when people use that excuse as, boxing is a tough sport. Well, guess what, man? You got guys on the other end of on the other side of the street, in the other neighborhood, actually. Forget the street. The UFC MMA, that's a completely different neighborhood. They're training just as hard, fighting just as hard as well, and they're making a fraction of what some of these pampered boxers, and they're fighting the best. So let's go to another phone call here. Let's go to, hold on a second. It's loading. 661, you're on the air. 661, what's on your mind?
Thank you for taking my call again, BDA. I just wanted to add to what Jimmy was talking about Showtime and how they were talking about Benavidez and all that. And I agree with you. Right now, I feel Canelo will beat David Benavidez. It won't be the type of fight that, Canelo walking him down. It'll be like a Canelo versus Caleb Smith or something like that, right? A slowly calculate Canelo just schooling them. But to say that David Benavidez doesn't deserve the fight is kind of iffy to me. David Benavidez, to me, what I'm saying is he deserves the paycheck, I want to see the fight at 175. He'll give Canelo a hell of a fight. It'll be better than it's weird to me. I feel like Latinos in general can never get credit for anything. They get downplayed. I heard you guys talking about UFC. No, for real. I heard because natives can't even identify with being native. Right? It's like, oh, native. What? They try to act like it's just an illusion, but Mexicans run the world. You guys are talking about UFC. Huh?
No, go ahead, man. We're listening. We're trying to listen, trying to make sense of what you're saying. Yeah.
You guys are talking about the UFC. The UFC wouldn't be as big as it is if it wasn't for Mexicans. And the biggest draw is not John Jones, not even close. He's an affirmative action hype job who could beat his wife, you call it steroids, and still get a title shot. Same thing with Conor McGregor, punching old dudes, throwing dollies. But Nick Diaz gets banned for Henry Cejudo. Who do you think you are? You could just come back because this is how it is in the USA. And Trump's the proof. Built that wall as a proof. But the truth is, Nate Diaz and Masvidal are the biggest draws in the UFC. That's why recently they put out a video of Masvidal supposedly getting into it with a white kid. That's the levels they will go to try to tarnish the image and all that. So yeah, my opinion, I want to see the best. Out of all the fighters, Charlo, all these divas, Benavidez is a real one. He deserves a paycheck. To me, he really wants. He's calling out people. He called out Charlo his last fight. Charlo stood quiet, right? But why is everybody acting like,
But
why?
bro, right? You got to admit, losing your title on the scale in the Coke thing, that hurt him too, right? There's got to be ramifications for that because, right now,
100%.
What's hurting him? Right, what's hurting him is he doesn't have a title. I think if he had a title, that would be the fight to make. Obviously, he's a Mexican. He's of Mexican descent. Mexican Americans buy more pay-per-views than any ethnic group. That's a fucking statistical fact. It is what it is. So obviously, if he had a belt,
Latino,
I would think.
Period.
Right, so they would have that would have been the fight to make. I think what's really hampering him right now. He needs to go out. What's up?
You're chopping up a little bit, Jim. I can't really hear you.
Oh, sorry about that, bro. I was just saying, because of that, he needs to. I think Benavidez, he should demand the best. Give me the best you motherfuckers got. I'll beat him. Because the thing is, you do that, you create your own legacy. Legacies have gravitational pull. The dudes who didn't have the intestinal fortitude the nutsack to create their own will try to make play off yours. Like Plant, like Charlo, they will try to fucking gain their cash off your legacy. So if Benavidez, and he is a fighter through and through, he's a fighter. So he should go out and just bang everybody out, create a legacy, and his natural draw of his legacy will make those big clashes. That's just my opinion.
He's not a natural 68 pounder. Also,
I agree,
he's big, dude.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I want to see that 175. He's weight draining himself for that paycheck, and hopefully he goes up and they do it there. I feel like people shouldn't downplay this fight because Canelo, trust me, dude, I see him beating Benavidez, but Benavidez deserves that fight, in my opinion, more than Charlo, more than all these dudes, Bivol, what's his name, Baturfiev. Like, I don't see what's the hype about, you know? Benavidez is really calling people out.
I can understand Beterbiev. You can understand Beterbiev because of his punching power. He's undefeated. I think he's got 3 of the belts at 175, or at least 2, right? So obviously there's all those intangibles that would pull Canelo to him, you know. So I mean, there's that. But everybody else, yes, I agree, he deserves it more than Charlo because he wanted to fucking fight Charlo. He's been calling him out for years. So I give a fighter credit for that. If I had to choose from the two, I'm going to take the motherfucker who was chasing dudes, not the one who was running from him.
Yeah, but
you know what I'm saying?
It seems like to me, people are a little iffy about, you know, fighting Benavidez. Like, if they're trying to protect Canelo, I don't even think that Benavidez will beat Canelo right now. Canelo's too good, but he just deserves that fight over all these other dudes. Because Bivol, when Bivol fights, isn't Bivol turning down fights? These other dudes turning down fights. But Turfiev, after his fight, instead of calling out Canelo, he tries to play the humble role. It's really, he's scared, right? Benavidez ain't scared. And that's what I like about it. That's what they do. Well, I'm humble. I'm not going to call them out. AKA, you're scared. You don't have to disrespect. Just say, let's do it. Let's do it. You know what I mean?
People want me to ask you, who are the real natives?
Huh?
People want to know who the real natives are.
All right, just the real natives are basically the Mesoamericans, Peruvians, the Incas. Look up the Incas, the Olmecs. Look at the headstone statues in Mexico. Those are the real natives. It's not only Mexicans. And Aztecs, yes, some Mexicans are Aztec descendants, but not all Mexicans are Aztecs. Some are, but it's just different tribes. And when you hear the word Native American, I'm not talking about the natives you see in the reservations and all that. They're Native Americans, but from certain tribes. Not only Mexicans, but all Latinos, Hondureños come from certain tribes. Puerto Ricans, the Incas, the Olmecs. Look that up. Those are the natives, and basically us Mexicans.
Well, that's
we're the
interesting
descendants of them. Mixed with the Spaniards.
That's interesting because Bivol, from what I understand, I don't know if this is like another concoction from the mainstream media, but they say that that theory, the general theory, is that Asians travel through the North Pole and they settle in America and they became the natives. So technically, Bivol, he looks a little bit Asian. He might be a native himself, man. You never know. But in any event,
the land bridge in Alaska, right? Is that what you're talking about?
The Dire Strait or whatever they call it. Yeah.
Why do you think some Mexicans look Chino and they call them Chinos?
That's right. Yeah. Well, anyway, listen.
What is
right?
What is it called, BD? The Gibraltar Strait, or was it? Is that what it's called? The Gibraltar Strait?
I think so.
No, that's not there. That's the 300. That's another one.
All right. Well, listen. We'll look it up.
Strait. That's Africa. Yeah, that's connection of.
Okay.
I'll check out the encyclopedia later. But listen, anyway, fighter spirit. Good call as always, and we'll catch you in the next one. All right, man.
All right, stop protecting Canelo. Let's that Benavidez will happen. Peace, y'all.
Will do. Take it easy, man.
Take it easy.
All right, that was fun.
He definitely brings the confidence. You know what I mean? He likes to stir it up, huh?
Yeah, man. He should. You know what? He should smoke the peace pipe a little bit and a little peyote. And take it easy, man. Get back in touch with the spirits. All right, let's go. But don't forget to hit the like button, first of all. Hit the like button. Shout out to Revolucion. Haven't seen him in a while. He says he donated a super chat. He says, love you, BDA fam. I don't come around as much now, but I'm always here in spirit. Very busy training and wrestling. This year, I'm going to make you all proud. But yeah, I did see the last video he provided us of his wrestling. And yeah, he's getting better, man. Definitely. See, if you keep at it, you can't get worse. You can only get better. So that's, Revolucion is putting that into practice, and hopefully we get to see footage of the main event that he was in. I believe he said a couple of weeks ago, he told us he was going to be in the main event. So shout out to Revolucion, man. Good to see. Nice to hear you doing well. Speaking of doing well, let's go to the phone lines, see what we've got here. 929, you're on the air. 929, what's on your mind?
Yo, what's up, BDA? It seems like deja vu all over again. That I fucking have to follow up the call from the fucking ancient aliens whack job. Like, he was talking about Benavidez and he's scared to face Canelo, right? But if I seem to recall, like, Sam Lukowitz protected him from fighting Caleb Plant for some reason. And thing is, man, it's like you're trying to build your name, to face Canelo, but you're not doing the things that are required to do so. So, and he had an opportunity to defend his belt, but then he lost it on the scales. So that's the end of that. But like, I don't know if he's getting the Canelo fight anytime soon. So that's the end of that. But I just wanted to call in to talk about the Gary Russell and Mark Magsayo fight from yesterday. First of all, shout out to Team Batman Boxing who uploaded that shit via Telegram. I got to see it, in full. I didn't get to see the stream yesterday because I caught it halfway through. I guess around between football and UFC. But I thought the thing with Gary is like, yeah, he made better use of his feet, but like, my thing is this: if you're gonna make what is the point of making him miss? Making your opponent miss if you're not gonna make him pay. Like the thing is like he's a stingy puncher, and I felt like Magsayo made better use of his hands. Granted, he wasn't accurate. He had trouble cutting the ring off. These are some technical flaws that the other fighters can exploit, but it's just I don't think we're at a time where the pot shotting, all that shit is rewardable at this time. It's like, this is not tag, this is not freeze tag, this is boxing, this is the herb business. You're there to put your opponent away, at least put doubt in their hearts and not come forward. And it's strange to me because like he couldn't lift his left, I think his right arm above his chest, right? So that means he had a shoulder injury, and Magsayo should have been able to really silence it, like put away any doubt and try to be more authoritative with the jab, because that header was there for him. Even if he was that slippery, and Gary Russell knows how to duck on the hooks, it's like, dude, you got to take advantage of those opportunities. And it's like I don't see the aggressiveness. Like, yeah, he's a protege of Pacquiao, but he doesn't have his aggression.
Excellent point, Virtuoso. I mean, there was plenty of criticism to go around. It wasn't perfect boxing by any means, but it was somewhat entertaining and interesting. So, listen, Virtuoso, we got to move on, but good call, good points. Call back next time, right, man?
Oh, yeah, good call, Virtuoso.
No problem, man.
You're 100% right. He lacks the aggression. That's
take care, guys.
Right on the money.
Take it easy, man.
Yeah. Here's the thing, really, really fast. Or you want to go to the next call? BD?
No, go ahead, Gonzalo. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, he beat him. He beat him clearly. Magsayo beat him clearly. If he tries to do more than what he really needs to, according to like what Russell is offering, what if he makes mistakes and gets countered by these pop shots? Then he loses on the scorecards, because we had one judge having it a draw already. But if he makes a little bit more of a mistakes, he was playing it safe, but safe enough to where he was still beating Russell by a little. Now, by a little is enough to beat him, but if you trip up and you make a little bit more mistakes by trying to be more aggressive, man, you might lose the fight on the scorecards.
Exactly.
So we don't know if like his lack of aggression, well, it paid off this time, but if it's because he really lacks it, or it was a strategical thing. We have to see in his next fight.
Like somebody else said, he went in there to play. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Sorry, go, brother. No, you go. I'll go after you.
Yeah, like somebody else said, and he went in to play counterpuncher, and strangely enough, when Russell Jr. lost one arm, it sort of threw a monkey wrench in the works for Magsayo, who, that's the thing though, he sort of fights like a robot, and he wasn't able to adapt. People have said it before, boxing is like jazz, improvisational jazz, you gotta improvise in there. in the moment, and it seemed like he was too zoned into the game plan. And once things actually worked out in his favor, it was actually a negative because he didn't know how to deal with that. So Magsayo, I just don't think he has that next level computer to take it to the next level as a pound for pound fighter. So, but yeah, Jimmy, what did you want to say?
Go to a call. You just said exactly what I was going to say.
Great minds think alike, man. Great minds think alike.
Absolutely.
All right, let's go to. Hold on a second. 201. You're on the air. 201. What's on your mind?
Hey, good afternoon. Good afternoon, guys. How you guys doing?
Doing fantastic, man. Thank you for calling in. What's on your mind?
I want to add to two things. One, the Benavides comment, which is, well, listen, everybody knew what Canelo, what he was planning to do. Like, shit. Sorry for the bad word, but everybody knew, like, what Canelo was, what he wanted to do, like, move up or whatever the case may be, but everybody knew what he wanted to do. So, like, the best chance to get Canelo is beating him into the game. Like, okay, I'm Charlo, I'm gonna move up to 168, I'm gonna belt, so I have something that he wants. But this guy that you wanna, like, call him out and, like, think, like, because you're calling me out, like, getting attention like a woman, like, hey man, why you not looking at me? I'm here, you don't wanna fight me, this and that. But Canelo's not backing none of these guys,
That's a good point. I mean, the thing with Canelo. Well, go ahead, Cole. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
The thing with Canelo is he's got so many options. He can't fight everybody at the same time. So it seems like he's avoiding certain fights. Like, that's always happens with the A-list.
So he has so many options. Sorry.
Yes, that's exactly what I was saying.
But he has so many options. He has so many options because he's a cash cow. That's the thing. You guys, you're not cash cow, so you better get something that I want. So Canelo right now, he wants two things. I don't think he was looking for the best fight. I think he is looking for legacy things, on a Roy Jones Jr. type of mission. Like, at least get the most belts as I can. He's doing like Mayweather did, but I think he's like one-upping a little bit because Mayweather just want to like controversy and like make the money regardless. But I think he's want to do about beating the legit champions, like, with belts and making the most money.
Mm-hmm.
And adding to that, I heard about, like, like he's ducking Benavides. Listen, Benavides messed up his two opportunities to get Canelo. One out of scale and one big with a cup thing. He's a good fighter. He's talented. He has fast hands, so he don't have enough to break Canelo down because he's very like steady. He cannot pivot. He has power, but do you really think he's gonna catch Canelo with a couple of those combos, like clean flush shot? I doubt it. And like, he's gonna come back because Canelo's a great counter though. Like,
yeah, it's still a dangerous fight that I would like to see. Oh yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Also, like the main point of sorry, I know it was a long thing I was saying, but I wanted to talk about the guy Rusell Jr. and Magsayo fight. I think Magsayo won. He definitely won. But it's a lot of things this guy needs to improve, like his footwork, like his punch placement, and, the way he chases his opponents or whatever the case may be. Because let me tell you something, if Rusell Jr. would have a little more pop on his left, he would have got him a couple of times. He's got it clean in the body, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think Guy Rusell did enough to win the fight, but he showed like he has a high, better boxer. Even though I'm not liking Guy Rusell Jr. anymore due to his activity, his cockiness, and being a PVC guy. But you can tell, like, also the ring rust was a great point of the management of his diminished body. Like, you can tell it was a big thing because first he missed weight and then he had got to lose that pound like in an hour and then come back and like, I think he messed up his own career, just like, in activity and all that. Like, that's I'm the longest reigning champion, which is all smoke and mirrors, like everything from the PVC.
Well, you know what, man? At the end
But
of
do
the
you
day,
think he's gonna get the fight with Santa Cruz?
yeah, that's the thing. Well, listen, I mean, maybe he gets the fight with Santa Cruz. Maybe he gets a one last payday. But one thing you pointed out is overall, if you can condense it into one, point is Gary Russell Jr. is the quintessential example of how not to lead a career. This guy, he let the time go through one fight at a time. One fight per year, rather, and he ended up getting his body broke down. He had a bunch of excuses. Well, I mean, he put himself in that position overall. Yes, he was injured, but he put himself in that position, and at the end of the day...
No, I agree.
Maybe he gets... Yeah, but what I'm saying is maybe at the end of the day, he still gets one payday, but it's still one payday more that he could have made. He could have made more paydays beforehand if he would have stayed active. So, listen, 201, great points. We do have to move on. But thank you for your call, and we'll catch you on the next one, all right, man?
Oh, thank you for having me, guys.
Thank you,
great
man.
Points. I agree with you 100%, and have a good one, guys.
You too. Enjoy your Sunday.
Good call, brother.
Yeah,
Nice
man. I mean,
call, good call.
It's just everyone, almost everyone, like this caller can see what happened with Gary Russell Jr. It's just mismanagement from his own end, or somebody else. I don't know, but he said himself he didn't want to fight 2 times a year. So hey. This is what happened.
Remember when he beat Johnny Gonzalez, Mr. BDA?
Yes.
Yeah, man, everybody thought, well, that's the impression I got. Dude, this guy is fucking skilled. He's supremely talented.
The thing is, I don't know about his relationship with Al Heyman, how good it is, because remember a few years back, he was wearing those shirts. His whole team was wearing a shirt saying, basically, hey, Al, give me this fight. I'll make this fight. And then somebody in his team said, well, you don't actually meet Al Heyman. There's only a handful of the guys on the PBC who actually even met him. Mm-hmm. And so that type of thing. So he was making it sound there for a while like he wasn't able to get the fights, but then again, there's been too many evidence, too many times that he's turned fights down because he said the money wasn't right. It's like, dude, wait till fucking Tuesday when the numbers drop for Saturday, because that was a Showtime fight, right? Mm-hmm. So it's going to be on the fucking. We don't have to worry about an announcement. Nelson ratings are going to put that out there, and let's see what it did against like a fucking reruns of the Simpsons. What do you seriously, if he gets crushed in the ratings, and you'll know. It's like, dude, you got crushed in the ratings in a championship fight because you didn't build anything around your name. There was no. You know what I mean? There was just nothing.
Well, how do you think it's going to do?
Around that kid's name.
If you had to guess, how many views do you think it does?
It's 225 to 300,000.
Which is right. Isn't that what Charlo was making too? Yeah, I think Charlo was making.
Yeah, right around there, about the same thing, dude. I live in a fight town, Mr. BDA. If I walked out my door right now, I would probably spend most of the afternoon asking people before I actually met somebody who actually heard of Gary Russell Jr. You know what I mean? It would only be the hardcore of the hardcore people. Right. You know what I mean? Who would know him. It's just he never created a buzz around his name. And when he didn't get the buzz, he did what a lot of fucking people do. They blamed race. It's because of racism. But whenever the top paid fighters, we don't have to go through all that stuff. But when the top fighters are all black, that excuse doesn't hold water. You didn't create a legacy because you didn't want to put in the work.
Hey, Jimmy, speaking of race, which seems to be a point that's been going around for the past 2 weeks with the Crawford thing, you said something about Crawford. You have a new line on the whole Crawford top rank thing?
Well, this I don't want to steal the thunder off this. Somebody dropped me this in a DM, and he explained. Okay, well, Brian Friedman is a huge entertainment lawyer in Hollywood. Okay, represents a ton of actors and a ton of musical acts. His biggest musical act was Mariah Carey.
Mariah Carey.
Somebody Mary, exactly.
Okay,
I'm pushing her name too, but yes. Somebody that was linked to Mayweather as possibly dating back in 2014. They were being seen at each other's birthday parties, all up on each other's arms and stuff. Whatever, that was rumor. The pictures are out there. They were together many, many times. Then on top of that, Al Heyman used to promote her tours because that was what he's doing in the music industry. He was he promoted tours, and that was where he made most of his bank. But so there's a connection there. So he clearly, on top of that, he's a Harvard graduate lawyer. He goes to all those top lawyer things, and Brian Friedman's a top lawyer. So they probably would have known each other just through that being in the industry. But the fact that his number one client was somebody that Al Heyman did work with, and Al Heyman, it would be him and his wife, and maybe the secretary. But I guarantee you there was a relationship. So now it's starting to make more sense. It was him who pointed, because I'm like, how did fucking Crawford know to go to this Los Angeles-based entertainment attorney? Where did he get Brian Friedman, right? Where would he have known to get him? And then there you go. When Mickey Garcia hired him, it was after fucking, I think he even admitted he was turned on to Brian Friedman. He's the one to represent him. So then you take the fact that now you got Heyman and both Freeman both have it in for Bob. Freeman, because he lost that case. He didn't lose it. He just didn't win anything. He could not get Garcia out of the contract, and he disliked Bob for it. And then you got Al despises Bob, despises him.
Why though? Why? What exactly happened?
Because of the lawsuit. The lawsuit.
Okay.
The lawsuit. Yeah, that lawsuit. Remember, they threw out the Golden Boy one, and they threw out one that Bob had, but one was settled. They never said anything. They said settled. So what does that mean? Did he have to pay money? I don't know. But I guarantee you it cost Al a shit ton in attorney fees. And it's a pain in the ass and whatever. And, he was I guarantee you he's furious. I mean, he could be a very vindictive person. There's enough receipts to prove that. When you do him dirty, if he even perceives you doing him dirty. Look, he did to Lou DiBella. Lou DiBella's there singing happy birthday to his wife. Fucking 3 months later, he's blasting him out the door. You know what I mean? So just for making one phone call that he didn't approve. That's what it came down to. So, I think the connection even more than ever now that it was sat down, probably Floyd in the room saying, man, you could have been fucking huge, man, but they didn't pop. And there's Al, and, he's probably got a voice like yours, and he's educated as a motherfucker. He's a brilliant dude. And I guarantee you they baffled him and the fucking sue him. At the end of the day, they don't give a fuck. It's no skin off his dick, but it's embarrassing to Bob, even though these charges are frivolous. The charge of racism, but it's embarrassing to him. And I think that's all that matters to Al. He just wants to embarrass him out the door. This guy ain't probably got much more time left on this fucking ride. And this has been the most embarrassing moment of his professional career. And I guarantee you he would say that. Like, this is probably rough on him, especially being an outward leftist. So
this is interesting,
this is just Al Heyman payback.
This is interesting because I'm looking at this Brian Friedman attorney, and some of the cases that they talk about on Wikipedia is one involving Gabrielle Union. Apparently she was a judge on America's Got Talent or something like that, and apparently she came out with allegations of racism, toxic environment in the workplace. So this guy seems to have experience dealing with that type of stuff, and they settled, which doesn't necessarily mean that the other side were admitting that it was a toxic work environment, but seems like it also leads credence to the fact that maybe Crawford's just looking to get something out of this financial. You know what I mean? He doesn't want to go full all out. Maybe he's just looking for money from Top Rank. And he's using the racism. Because again, people say, well, the racism part is just part of the lawsuit. Yeah, but then why bring it up in the first place? You know what I mean? It's that's the part that irks me here. He could have just done this the clean way and said, look, he owes me money contractually. Exactly. Let's get to it. No, but he says, this guy's racist. He's made racist comments. And then when you look at what the racist comments were, they're all very flimsy things that anybody can look at and say, well, that was racist. And another person can look at it and say, that wasn't racist. What are you talking about? So it's all out of whack, man.
Outside of the contractual obligation Bob has to him, the rest of it was just flowery language to elicit a response. Because if he would have just sued him for, I think, I deserve this fight in 2019, I deserve this bonus, whatever, that's contractual law. It's probably the most boring thing. That would have grabbed maybe one boxing scene fucking tweet, right? And it would have been forgot about. You call him a racist in today's fucking political environment and how that's, that's the currency everybody runs with. And what happened? LDBC's pumping videos. It ingratiated it. Instantly went Crawford from being all the vile names they called him for signing with Bob to now he's one of theirs now. I mean, that's, you just see the videos, some of the shit they're saying. But instead of being smart and look at the big picture and say, maybe if these motherfuckers would have bought my fights instead of panning me as a, all these terrible things, like I said, they said about him. But I think Heyman 100% has a relationship with Freeman, and that's the reason why Garcia used them, and that's the reason why the kid from Nebraska knew to get that fucking same lawyer. I think he was referred to him by Heyman, and this was all a thing to paint Bob ugly.
Jamie, I think you're right, man. Looking at this guy, Like they knew where to go with this guy. I mean, it's just he's yeah.
Maybe Crawford is looking. Maybe Crawford is looking inside himself. He's getting older, and he's considered the top fighter, maybe one, maybe two, pound for pound fighter in the world. He's getting the knockouts. He's not boring, so he's probably looking inside himself, telling himself, "Man, I should be a bigger star than what I am, and I'm getting older. I have to find somebody to blame because look at Canelo. So if I'm a good fighter, I'm exciting. I'm knocking everybody out, but my career's not going the way it should." He's probably looking inside himself and saying, man, it's probably racism because I should be bigger. I should.
Right. But then if you're going to do self-reflection, wouldn't you say, but I refuse to do podcasts, talk to media. When I did, it was one-line answers. You know what I mean? I mean, let's be honest. You got the personality of a fucking parking meter. So that doesn't, equate to pay-per-view sales. And then on top of that, he's sitting down with people who are openly lying to him about the number of pay-per-views their guys are doing. I mean, if this past 2 pay-per-views that cop, Mr. Sources, his sources, isn't it kind of odd how his sources suddenly dried up when the last 2 pay-per-views announcing them would have been embarrassment to the fucking PBC? Why would a reporter for ESPN care? Why wouldn't his sources come through? Right? Where's his sources when these pay-per-view numbers are obviously bad? The fact that he isn't tweeting them out, even if they're bad, tells you he's in the pocket of the PBC. This is, 100%. I mean, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, man. I mean, Gonzalo hit the nail on the head too, man. It's easier to blame others and believe that there's a conspiracy against your race than to say, you know what? Maybe it's my fault that I didn't become that. And by the way, he's not even number 2 pound for pound. I still think Usyk's number 2 compared to this guy. I mean, Crawford fought until the Porter fight. He didn't fight anybody that you would go, whoa, this guy's top 5 pound for. Well, maybe top 5, but I mean, he's not number 1. The people are still thinking, well, he's number 1 over Canelo. How? How is he beating Khan and Kavaliuskas? Okay, he dropped them, stopped them. Well, he didn't really. Khan he was about to stop him, but you get what I'm saying. Look, his resume pales in comparison to what Canelo has done. And this is coming from a guy that's lukewarm towards Canelo, so make of that what you will.
And I was, a big Crawford fan. But this when my girl took the contract, right? You get it off the PDF, whatever. They put it out there so you can see it's, I believe, 26-page complaint against Bob Arum. The person at her law office who handles contractual law said outside of the few times I mentioned the contract, the rest of the stuff, even the way it was written, he said this thing could have been written in crayon. That's how much legal precedence any of it has. It's a joke.
Well, there you have it. And by the way, at the end of the day, Crawford's a millionaire. There's people out there hurting with the way that the economy is going. I mean, so he can complain. Obviously, if he believes and if he did get screwed, then obviously he can complain. But man, dial it down a little bit because there's people that are out there that are really hurting, and this guy's complaining.
$15 million, brother. $15 million for his last 4 fights, and like you said, outside of Porter, he got $15 million. And my thing is this: when you say the biggest thing he's got to prove to the judge, you're going to sit as a judge and say, okay, but where's the metrics? Where's the fucking gauge you're using that I believe I'm this talented? I'm a level at this talent. Where's the chart that shows me you should have made X amount of dollars by this point in your life? It's not out there. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't exist. So how does he even correlate the money he's owed?
Exactly. I mean, it's a mess. So, it will be very interesting to see what happens from here on out. In any event, guys, we do have to go. So shout out to everybody who joined us. Shout out to everybody that donated the super chat. Shout out to everybody that called in. And that's about it. Don't forget to hit the like button, fellas. Check us out on iTunes, Spreaker, and Spotify. Keep on spreading the BDA gospel. We will be back this week because there are some fights. Makabu versus Makunu are fighting. By the way, I thought they were going to have that fight in Africa. It's going to be in Ohio. So, I mean, that's bizarre right there. And also we have... Who else is fighting next week? There was another fight. Let me look it up real quick. So we should be back talking about that. I know Chief wants to do an episode where we detail the top 5 guys per division of all time. Top 5 all-time greats in every division. That's going to be a long one. Wow. There's a lot of material right there. And okay, so next week...
Can I just say, dude, real quick, I agree with you. They should be showing fights in Africa. They need to grow that sport more there. The sport will always produce the best athletes in the most socioeconomically depressed areas because it's a quick way for athletic kids to take their family out of poverty. Boxing doesn't exist in wealthy areas.
That's
and
right.
It's just the cold, long. So they should be fucking building it up in Nigeria and fucking Ghana. You know what I'm saying, brother? But anyways, this is my point.
Well, Nigeria used to have, one of the greatest, two of the greatest fighters of all time, Dick Tiger and Azuma Nelson. Well, no, sorry. Dick Tiger came out from Nigeria, Azuma Nelson, Ghana. Nigeria and Ghana they used to produce good contenders for a long time. Now, though, it's, you know what? People always talk about, well, Mexicans get a bad rap, and then that, which isn't true. Then other people say, no, it's African Americans, we get the bad rap in boxing. That's not true. The people that really do get fucked over consistently are the Africans. Nobody, I think, who's somebody else had said it. I forget which fighter it was, professional fighter was. It said, look, Africans, they have nobody backing them. They don't have a big time promoter or anything. You bring him on from Africa, you can beat him on the scorecards or give your guy the victory on the scorecard. And who's going to complain? These guys go back to Ghana. Exactly. Have you seen the gyms in Ghana? They make the gyms in Mexico and the Philippines look like fucking Gold's Gym. I mean, they are run down. So,
Mexicans are popular too because they're right next to the border. It's like the drug cartel, supply and demand. If they're asking for your product and you're right next to the border, you produce more boxers because all you have to do is, get across the border, and then you have a greater chance of being famous. But if you're across the world in Africa, it's harder.
Exactly, man.
Remember the one that one line, that funny fucking joke that George Collins used to say about boxing, how he said boxing's all about socioeconomically depressed people. He said, he goes, for every one great Mexican fighter, there's a fucking American Indian looking to kick his ass.
It's true.
You can't say that nowadays. People would say American Indian.
You're gonna get fighter spirit on your ass, man. Yeah. So you better cool with that.
Hey, I'm fucking don't shoot the fucking messenger.
Yeah, exactly.
Virgil Hill was American Indian, right? Virgil Hill, the light heavyweight.
Yeah, no, you're right. He was. I think he might have been mixed, but like definitely a big part of his heritage was American Indian. He was from North or South Dakota, one or two.
Yeah, that's why he was outscored. That's why I saw him.
Casino.
I think so.
Yeah, that's why. It's interesting you mentioned that. Now I understand why there were a lot of scalpers at these fights. All right, listen, we gotta move on.
Don't forget to tip your waitresses on the way out the door.
Yeah, there you go, man. All right, listen, fellas, thank you for joining us. Stay tuned for maybe something else down the line in terms of suicide streams or Second Renaissance, and we'll catch you in the next one, fellas. Thanks for joining us. Shout out to Norman Luis, Ratbacks Trucking Company, Burgess Meredith, Eparokua, Don Ramon Champ, Chazar, Tommy M, Troy Smoke Alarm, Flu Klux Klan, what is fucking names, man? Eddie Valenzuela, Abe Sibo 18, Hawker Mustang, Mark Doherty. You guys know who you are. Thank you for joining us. Catch you on the next one. Take it easy, fellas.
I'm disappointed in every one of you.